man, this YouTube video of the entire
And we're
I'm
live.
online. We are live. Hello, everyone. He's like, I'm Otaku Boy 51, and we are here with the lore master of Silent Hill, Konami's grand scheme of things, Kalana Ann. We're gonna do a deep dive today into Silent Hill F, the newest predecessor of the Silent Hill franchise. And more or less, this is taking the internet by storm. Not only that, it's setting point, the story, and how intricate that Silent Hill has not lost its magic. Being a title, what was it, Anne? Like how? When was the first Silent Hill taking place?
The very first game? Like
Yeah,
the
when
very
did the first
oh
game
lord.
launch? Like in the
1999.
90s.
I was 10 years old.
1999.
Yes, it was such a good game. Oh man.
So we got
Still is a
Silent
good
Hill
game.
1 that came out in 99, and then we have Silent Hill F of this year.
Hmm.
Still a franchise that never exactly like lost its spark, and maybe there was a few weak titles in the series. And a lot of people, as I was growing up, said like Silent Hill 4 was the worst one. No, 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 Shattered Memories. It's like, well, they all had the overarching scheme of having psychological horror as the forefront.
Oh yes,
Is that kind
absolutely.
of a?
You're spot on.
But let's.
It's such a great game. I love the fact that Konami went like a different route with this instead of just trying to continue with it being like just a random midwestern town, possibly in like America, to it being like set in Japan. That's such a cool concept. And when it was announced, I was so excited. But because Konami has burned, its fan base for so long, it seems a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's not going to be good." But I had hope because the Silent Hill 2 remake was so good, and then it released, and I
Oh,
played it, and I was like, "Oh,
absolutely.
this game is amazing! Oh my god!"
I even said the same thing because it's like I mentioned before, even during my gameplay of Silent Hill, I always knew what Silent Hill was, but I never had the consoles growing up to play them. So I
Mm.
was excited when Silent Hill 2 remake came out. And then when Konami announced like, "Oh, Silent Hill F is going to be taking place in 1960s Japan."
Mhm.
That me as like being a fan, like this like baby version of of like Silent Hill lore, I'm like, wait, isn't Silent Hill like in West Virginia with the coal mining, and that's
You're a
why that
baby
one dude?
fan.
I'm a baby fan,
Yeah, it was a really
because
cool
like,
take for them to do that though, because there is an actual file that you can find in Silent Hill F. I think it's later in the game that Hinako picks up and you can read it, and it talks about the Silent Hill phenomenon. And I think in Silent Hill 4 and in Silent Hill 2, there are other related notes that you pick up that talk about it. So it basically states that Silent Hill is kind of a state of mind and being. So it doesn't matter if you're actually in the town of Silent Hill, it can kind of happen anywhere, if that makes sense. That's very long
which
winded.
yeah, well no, because again, this is why you are the lore master. You have more
I'm not the
game
lore
time, more
master, I just
hours
know a
into this.
lot about these. Like, I grew up with these games, and because I moved a lot as a kid, my outlet was games because I didn't stay in one place long enough to basically have core friendships. So video games became my, you know, world
Your
into.
outlet,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I was like, oh, I love horror movies. And then I was like, oh, horror games are a thing. I remember playing the first Silent Hill game, and I was just like, this is so awesome. And I got to the very first puzzle, which is where you have to do the piano puzzle, and I did not understand it all. Granted, I'm 10 years old, so of course I'm not going to understand it. Um, and I didn't know
Especially in
guidebooks
a
were a
world with
thing.
no Google. Yeah, I was
Yeah,
like in a
yeah,
world
Google
with no
wasn't a thing
Google or
yet. I mean, we had
Wikipedia.
we had internet, but you know, I didn't know what a guidebook was back then. What they had on the cases for games is they had a number. They had a helpline you could call and get tips on how to figure out puzzles in the game.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
that I did not know.
yeah. So I think I have one for Resident Evil 3. I'll take a picture of it and post it in Discord if I can find it. But in playing this game, it's it's interesting that they chose the 1960s. And when I first played the game, I was lost on a lot of things of like, well, why did they do this and why does this matter to the story? And then I did the second playthrough and I was like, oh. this makes a lot of sense actually.
Right.
Also, spoiler warning for people who haven't played the game and aren't going to play the game or are going to play the game. We might talk about something that is spoiler-ish, so disclaimer here if you don't want to, you know, hear that, we apologize.
Definitely go play the game and then come back a couple days later.
Yes.
But
Um,
since you're talking, let's definitely jump into about like the culture of 1960s Japan
oh,
because
yes.
it's like the Japanese like they were able to just encapsulate and capitalize on the culture itself. Like Japanese horror, Asian horror itself
So
has its
good.
own following,
Hmm.
honestly.
Absolutely. It's so, so good. I remember watching, like, The Ring and The Grudge when they
Hmm.
first debuted, and then I went and watched like the Japanese versions of them, and I like the Japanese versions a lot more because they're more, you know, home to the lore basically. And then I
Exactly.
played Silent Hill F, and it gives off vibes that kind of connect to other horror titles. So like, especially Fatal Frame, the game really gives me a lot of Fatal Frame vibes, which is amazing. And then Fatal Frame 2 remake was announced, and I was like, this is just the year for gaming for me. Like,
It's like the companies are actually paying attention. Like, wow, we could actually make money with this. And it's like, yes, yes, this is
yes,
when
you
you guys
could.
were actually. This is what made you show up on the map.
Absolutely. So going back to your point, let's talk a little bit about the culture of 1960s Japan. What what is your
Because
take on it?
so again, like me and like our viewer Catalotl, we were living in Japan and growing up, like you said, like oh, Silent Hill was always there for me. It's like same. I was always like very interested in culture, like Japan, the culture, the history, and like the mythologies and everything. So I was excited when Silent Hill F was taking place in 1960s. But then even then, I'm sitting there thinking, oh, 1960s Japan? First of all, it's like that's kind of like the weird era of Japan where it's like they are recovering from, World War II, and then
Mhm.
the thing about Japan's culture is like they haven't really changed. So whatever 1960s Japan, it was most likely just another like reflection from the earlier years of Japanese history.
Right.
So this idea because we can look at our own American culture and say like, oh yeah, the 50s, the trad wives. It's like,
Not the
yeah,
trad
trad wives
wives.
is a trend. It's like that's a trend now in Japan. That's just been their thing. It's
Yeah.
almost like until like the 70s, I believe, that like the working class like had females and are actually considered as equals. I mean, if you can look at the news today, Japan is now slowly accepting like the LGBT like movement in Japan. Like it's slowly being like accepted. So sitting here looking at 1960s, it's like okay, so more traditional values that even when they made the disclaimer in the beginning when you before your first playthrough, saying hey, a lot of this stuff isn't was normal. This
Mhm.
doesn't reflect today's values, and it's like feels a little weird that we have to make these disclaimers, but seeing how really the set piece for this game really makes a difference, especially since the whole topic's at hand. And not only that, as even the map itself, when our main character Hanako was traveling with her friends, you go, oh, this is our home. Yes, there was still laundry outside. Technology wasn't as great or well known. Not everyone had the same things. Gardens were like their food source and all that. Stores were not really flourishing, but again, and they kind of played at the trope. Like I don't know, you mentioned like you've seen The Ring and other Japanese horror movies.
Yep.
They played really well into the tropes, like the same generic tropes, like oh, a broken home, an abusive father, abusive parents, or
Mhm.
neglectful friends. So it felt like a genuine horror movie as playing it.
Oh yeah, I can definitely agree with that. I actually did a little bit like of additional research before we like hopped on today because when you think about 1960, you're like, that's it is a long time ago, but it's not that long ago. And you think about how, as a society, we've progressed or regressed, depending on where you live in the world. And then you think about this game being set in 1960s. You're like, that's such a weird era to kind of think about basing your game in. But for Japan, it kind of makes sense because when you look into um, the culture back then, it was still pretty mandatory for people to, you know, respect your father, honor thy mother. You know, the father is the bread maker in the household, and like, you know, if you had sons, they were more prevalent and obviously more looked at
Basically,
than your daughters.
stay in the gender roles of
Yes,
those things.
exactly. So it was interesting to kind of see that, and then when you look at the area in which this game takes place, or the town that Hinako lives in, it's a very small town. It's very like close knit, and it's very like there's lots of farmland and lots of what we would call back roads and things like that. You don't really see like big city lights or anything, so it kind of closes them off even more. And the more you play the game, the more it makes sense. It was a very smart choice for Konami and Neobards to make in guards of writing the script and putting it in the time and place that they chose.
Absolutely. Like, e- a lot of Japan is still rural like this place, so it's even more. I don't know. It probably sets even more of a narrative or even the setting because yeah, everyday people can go to these places and just go, oh, they really didn't fluff anything or what have
Yeah.
you.
Mhm. Absolutely. It's just like I said, there was a lot of stuff I was lost on during my first playthrough. Like the very beginning scene where after you meet Hanako's friends at the general store and then like the fog rolls in, I didn't realize until my second playthrough that Hinako is chasing herself. Like the thing in the fog is her, so she's running from herself.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me my second playthrough to realize that, and I don't know what triggered it for me. I think it was because during my first playthrough, you can't see the figure in the fog, but in your second playthrough, you can see it. And I think I was like, what? Like, it blew my mind. And I was like, that is so smart to have the game kind of change how it looks depending on if it's your first playthrough or your second playthrough.
That is also the interesting thing. So, you think it's safe that we start focusing on our characters for
Sure.
the story?
Yes, we can move on
Okay.
and
So,
talk
since
about
you
that. We
brought
can
up,
always circle back to topics if we think we missed something to chat about. We got a lot to cover,
so,
so.
oh yeah, that is very true. Yeah, I'm like slowly updating like my screen
Oh
with
no,
our topics.
you're good. You're good. So I guess we can start off with like Hinako. So obviously you start playing as her, and the premise is that she's between the ages of like 15 to 17 as you play through the game, and meet your friends along the way. So obviously you have Shu and Rinko, um, Sakuko. I think those are the main core characters. You have your mother and father, your sister Junko. So you have some other characters that you can interact with, and it's very interesting. Each interaction kind of has a psychological undertone to it. And then
Right.
there are characters that you're like, oh, I like this character, or oh, I don't like this character. And then you meet like Fox Mask, and you're like, who are you?
That's that was always interesting because even like I'm looking at this gameplay again right now, and I'm like sitting there thinking, so we got her friends like Shu, you got Hanako, and then oh, what was that other girl? Rinko and
Rinko.
Sakuko?
hmm
Yeah. So
We are not fans of
I've
Rinko, just saying.
oh
I'm not. When I say we, I mean
let's
me.
it's like let's make that clear. I
Yeah.
even my
If
chat
you
could sit there and point
if you
that out
if you
of
know,
how
you
I
know.
because and I felt like they also follow like the same tropes, but then also it's a little bit relatable. And again, this looking from the outside in, like I have a bunch of friends that were girls growing up, so I could like have seen this, but I personally would never experience this.
hmm
But I'd assume like this was kind of typical, like what she her friendship with Sakuko and Rinko. Especially how Sakako treated her when you met her at her house or whatever.
Yeah. It took me the longest time, like even when I did my second playthrough, to understand why Sakako calls her a traitor. I didn't figure that out until I think I either watched another streamer and they commented on it, or I read about it and I was like, okay, I guess that kind of makes sense, but it's a weird placement for me for that dialogue to be so early in the game.
But it makes me ask the question: did you ever read the her journal?
I did actually.
Because
So,
like even my chat was probably sitting there like, "Oh God, Otakio, why are you doing this?" Because I even commented, I'm like, "Well, if you played the Silent Hill 2 game back in the day and you looked at the picture of his wife, it changes the story." And I'm like, "Oh wait, what if I read? Hold on, let me read the journal." And there was like little notes that Hanako reveals saying like, "Oh yeah, she's my friend. She was gonna do this. She is also saying like." We need to do this and that. And it's just like, okay, so Sakuko was like, yeah, we're gonna be best friends, even though I'm more traditional. It's like, okay, nothing wrong with that. Rinko, as in her journal, was mentioning like, oh, she's more of the faddish girl, like, oh, up to date with like pop culture and fashion,
mhm.
and then kept saying like, oh, Hanako needs to be more pretty. She needs to, you know, use this and that. I should give her and help her out. And it's like, okay, Rinko, you're just a little bit audacious with your statements, but sure. But again, this is like Hanako's point of view of like
Yeah,
what her friends are presenting. So even when I
absolutely.
was playing this game, I was like, Hanako, leave your friends. Like they don't, they're not required, especially that bitch over there.
Yeah, it's definitely in the age of where you start to have the age that Hinako is as we're playing as her throughout the game is interesting because it's during that time, especially for girls, where you're making those core friendships that you may or might not have for the rest of your life. And of course, around that age for everybody, it starts to get muddied with, you know, somewhat like more than friendly feelings for other people that you see daily. So like between her and Shu, right? That's a
Yeah.
tumultuous relationship because I think that they both have love for each other, but I think it's different depending on one, what ending you're getting, and two, how you look at Hinako and how you look at Shu, right?
Yes.
So, and then
I would definitely
it gets
agree with that.
complicated.
And especially especially since like at least even in her journals she points out like how she sees herself exactly with her friends. So it's
Mhm.
like, oh, Sakako has been there for me because we're best friends. You're like, okay, cool. Rinko was there for me until we hit this like school age, and you're like, oh, which happens. Like, yeah, relationships change, and it's like, oh, but Shu's been there with me since the beginning. And it's like, okay, cool. But then seeing how quickly like so what happened to these characters, like we dealt with Rinko the longest. So I'm sitting there thinking, is Rinko more of a lingering emotional thing for Hinako, as in like development as a
That's fair.
teenager? Because it's I feel like looking back at this gameplay again, Sakuko was the first one to get consumed by the fog. Like, did
Mhm.
Hinako like cut her off early because like she doesn't see eye to eye or even remotely close to like having any relevance with her? Which also makes sense because when Hanako goes into the other world, is that what we're calling like the Silent Hill world, like
Yeah,
the other
might as
world?
well just to keep it on
Consistent.
flowing. Yeah, might as well. I don't see why we can't use that.
Yeah. And hopefully our audience like can keep track of how we're trying to explain things.
It'll be fine.
Because like when we first encounter the other world and we essentially put all her friends on trial or in these little traps, I perceive that as she is making the choice about her friends, which yeah, maybe she had a concept of realization, like her friends are not really her friends, especially Rinko.
Mhm.
Because I don't know about you, I did not like Rinko like after the first encounter of the
You
fog.
Oh, the first encounter. Okay, so not when she pushes Hinako down the stairs. Got it.
No.
That part was like that was a moment where you could see it coming from a mile away, but
Mm-hmm.
you still needed to see it play out. Like that's such a good scene. And I've actually gone and watched like the characters do the mocap for that scene, and it's very very interesting how they do it. Um, but yeah, it took me a long time to also realize that, especially for that scene and a few others, where you see the doll, like the doll you see in the beginning of the game with little
Oh
Hinako,
yes.
and I was just like, what does the doll have to do with any of these cutscenes where it shows up? And again, it wasn't until my second playthrough where I was like, oh, it's young Hinako leaving, like trying to reach out to older Hinako to like give her hints and things, you know? Basically saying like,
Right.
don't trust this person or whatever the note may be, and it kind of didn't make sense at first, but it makes sense later. It's one of those things that kind of hits you way later after you see it.
Hmm. It, that God, like I'm sitting there thinking, I'm trying to like analyze all the things too because a lot of the imagery too, which is kind of funny overall as an aspect, right? Because we were talking about like the culture and everything, and
Mhm.
I know my chat is always like laughing and pointing, and I'm like, oh my god, guys, it's spider lilies. Don't let the spider lilies touch you. And I know one of my friends like Kilana, or not, I'm sorry, Catalotl.
That's me.
Yeah, that is you. So like Catalotl, I remember she kept asking like, what's the spider lily? What is that? What kind of animal is that? It's like, well, no, that's the red flowers, and that's
Yeah.
always been a really good imagery and
Mhm.
used for like allegorical senses, especially in games like Ghostwire Tokyo.
Yeah.
Like that was always like personified and everything, and it's interesting that they used it as another like key aspect for Silent Hill.
Yeah, that's true because also they kind of have, I think, a strong link with death or like bad omens, not the band, haha.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's funny because later in the game you come across a part, and I remember saying this when you were playing. Of course, I said this a lot in the span that you were playing, where I was like, "Oh, that's a Silent Hill 2 reference." But there's a part later in the game where you come across this little pond, and there are white lilies everywhere, and it's funny because white lilies in American culture are also kind of representative of like a bad omen or like when someone has passed. So it's kind of cool to see the connection there between a spider lily and like a normal, like I guess daylily is what we would technically call it. Um, so it's kind of cool to see the merging of what you could see for culture wise between flowers basically at this point. It's kind of cool.
Definitely. And like I was mentioning before, it was just like even when you were popping in my streams, it's like they did Silent Hill always had a good they just did a good job with allegories and imagery,
Yes.
especially with the again like we were just talking about the spider lilies, and it's like because I'm over here, I like grew up with like Japanese culture and knowing a little bit more about it. I was like, oh, that's not good. Hanako, you need to sprint. But then I'm sure West, I know like probably everyone else is like, dude, they're just flowers. Like yeah, scary flowers, but they're just flowers. And it's like, no, you don't know the cultural significance. We need to run.
Here in Japan, it means something. Um, which is true, because there are a lot of things in the Western world that don't really carry such a significant cadence like they do in like Japan or other Asian countries. But it's interesting to see the interpretation from different individuals who have played the game or who have watched someone play it, um, or just played it one time. And I've seen so many Reddit posts of people who have played it once and they are so lost, but they won't go play it again so that they can get the rest of the puzzle. And I'm like, if you go and do that second playthrough, you'll understand so much more. And you don't have to, but it is the way they did that is so smart. So you play your first playthrough and you get chunks of information of the story, and then you go and
Mhm.
you do your second playthrough, and depending on what you've done in your second playthrough for whatever ending you're trying to get, the game changes. I think it's so cool that they give you the option to skip cutscenes that aren't the new cutscenes when you do your second playthrough so that you can understand what's happening.
Yes.
It's so
Absolutely.
nice. It was a smart decision.
And that's definitely I like I don't know how to explain it because like I said, I never got to really grow up and play the games. So I had like YouTube and
Mhm.
these like YouTubers that really talked a lot about Silent Hill and making references. Like whether it be funny, like, oh, I miss my wife. Ah, it's Silent Hill 2. But then they actually I watched them play Silent Hill 2 for October. I was like, I want to know who this Pyramid Head guy is. I think he's the coolest looking creature. He's badass. He's scary. And then seeing them play Silent Hill 2 and just like point every little detail makes me go, "Oh, oh, you mean the pyramid thing actually is a symbolism for yes." So it's like
Yes.
so you can't exactly just play a Silent Hill game once. And you're
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
"Okay."
Yeah, each
So
game I
it's like,
think
"Yes.
has like 5 endings, something like that.
Yes."
So,
Something of that nature. But at the same time, like on the face value, is Silent Hill like a good like horror franchise? Is it scary? Does it make you sit up and go, "I think I heard a noise"? Yes, absolutely. But then if you actually like, read it like a book, it is actually well done.
mhm. Absolutely. I actually agree with everything you just said. Um, so if we were to basically circle back, so we've talked about Sakuko, we've talked about Rinko a little bit. Let's talk about Shu for a moment. Um, he was his character is for me a bit flat and bland, and that could just be because you don't really interact with him that much, other than like some small cutscenes here and there and finding notes about him. Um, but I thought it was interesting how if you do your second playthrough and you don't take any of the pills, which are given to you by Shu, it changes that whole dynamic between Hinako and Shu when you get to Shu's house later in the game and you go to his little shed where he makes like his medicinal
Mmm,
herbs. Um, Hinako will actually leave the box of pills that he gives her in the beginning in the shed, and it changes the whole dynamic of like their relationship.
that's interesting.
So,
I will definitely say, like, I will agree with you about Shu because it felt like we were harping more about Rinko and Sakuko.
mhm.
So it's like, okay, Sakuko is like the ditzy one, whatever. Rinko is like the popular girl. Okay, cool, whatever. And she was like, yeah, she was your best pal since childhood. Yeah, he's cool. And then like that was it. It just never really went and
Yeah.
thought about it too much. It's like, wait, how is Hanako getting all these red pills from? Like, and then
Mhm.
you read in the journals like, oh yeah, Shu's been my best friend. You're like, he sure is. He's a cool guy. His family's a pharmacy. Yep, that's cool. Oh, he's like, the medicine man in town. That's cool. He gives me these red pills. It's like, how, how often? Hmm.
Mhm. Absolutely. I mean, his character I think has to take a back seat, especially when you look at how strong Sakuko and Rinko's characters are, especially with their dynamics in relation to their relationship with Hinako, right? Because of the age that they are, and you can kind of tell with how they interact with each other. So they're at that awkward stage, teenage stage where you're like, oh, you don't know what you want to do with your life. You don't, so many factors, big scary things to do. And
Right.
you kind of see that even though Shu and Hinako have grown up playing together and they call each other partner because of a game that they've always played when they were younger, you can kind of tell that it's awkward between them because depending on again on gameplay and what you read when you pick up certain notes throughout the game, who's confessing to who likes who, right? So like obviously we all know that Rinko is like in love with Shu, right? She has this big crush on
Oh,
Shu,
absolutely.
and it makes it awkward for Shu and Hinako, even though there's a note from Hinako where she says, "Oh, I've given Rinko my blessing. I don't know why she's not acting on it or whatever."
That man, that even my chat will. vouch for me. I was so vocal about that. It's like, damn, bitch. I already said you can. Leave me alone. But then, yeah, we probably all have had that friend that just wants to flex and flaunt and tease. It's like, yeah, because he's gonna be mine this whole time. It's like, okay, go ahead. I am literally just here, kind of.
Yeah.
So
Knock
that's
yourself
why
out.
even that's why going into the other world, I'm like, I don't care. Just like hit the switch, pull the lever, Kronk. Like I was like, look, you do you, baby girl. Like I gave you the chance, and you were flaunting it more than anything. So that's on you.
It's true. That is true. Um, but again, I just think compared to other characters that Hinako interacts with, Shu kind of falls flat. But I think it works the way it does because he falls flat. If that makes sense.
I also am willing to believe that they didn't give him too much of a character because like you find out like later like he was the reason for certain things, so it's like, oh, you're just an overarching theme for her.
Yeah.
So it makes sense like you don't want to put too much, and like again, first time playthrough, you don't want to have a strong emotion about Shu
That is true.
until like it happens.
I think that's a fair assessment, actually. Um, since we're still talking about characters, let's talk about Junko for a little bit because she's very interesting. So Junko
Oh
is
yes.
Hinako's older sister, who you kind of see her at the beginning of the game. They're waiting at like I think like a train station or something, and Junko has just been married, so she's getting ready to leave her familial home and go live with her husband. And you can kind of tell that Hinako's very upset by this. And if you're just starting to play the game for the first time and you see that cutscene, you kind of don't really know what to think about it because it's just awkward. But once you get the
Hmm.
lore behind why it's awkward, it's like, oh, okay, she's grieving that she's losing her sister in a way, and it's a very like it becomes a very emotional scene versus a very awkward scene. Um, and I remember wondering why Junko was this very important overarching existence in the game because you don't really hear or see much of her other than like little tidbits here and there.
Even in the journal, it was
Hmm.
like, oh, my older sister, she's so cool, kind of thing. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, so Hanako has a good relation with her sister. That's
Hmm.
good.
Yep. So it was just kind of interesting to see that. There's a scene later in the game where you're playing as Hinako and you're walking through like the grand hall and there's all those people on the sides that are like watching you as you walk by, right?
Yes, yes. Did you catch
I
that too?
did, I did. I had to go back and like reload that cutscene because I was like, wait a second, one of these things is not like the other, and I noticed that it was. I heard like I registered that the voice talking was Junko, but then when I went back and rewatched it, I was like, wait a second, that's her standing there like watching this whole thing go down. So it was very interesting to see the direct line of strength between Hinako and her sister, even though her sister is not really in the game at all.
Right. And I also caught that too. Like my first playthrough, I was like, oh, this is the clan. That's nice. And I stopped. I looked at one. I was like, why is that one like a bird?
Mhm.
Are you a tengu? I'm like sitting there like calling out like all the Japanese like mythological creatures. And I'm like, oh, kitsunes or inares or cubies. Oh God, I swear to God, if you guys are cubies. And I sit there and look at them again. As you mentioned, it's like that one's not like the other. I'm like, why is that one a bird?
Yeah, because it's like
Why are
like
we?
a falcon mask or something that she has on. It looks like it might not be a falcon, but it has a very pronounced beak versus the roundness and softness of like the fox mask.
Mm-hmm. So that's why I was staring at that one. I'm like, what? It's like, so we invite out anybody here? Interesting. And then we get that realization, like, oh, like little sister, why aren't you happy about this? It's like, you were there?
Mhm. Yeah.
But we can definitely say that Junko is literally a personification of, again, traditional value, or
Yeah, that's true.
even like what was like normal back in those days, because as we mentioned about like gender roles, like obviously oh, eldest daughter, so beautiful. She knows how to cook, she knows how to clean, and now she's being married off and everything. You're like, oh, good for her. But
Hmm.
as we already said, Hanako just seems a little broken about that, which is like, yeah, that's obvious because she's losing a part of herself with her sister like that,
Hmm.
which only makes the other world even more scary and crazy based off a concept alone.
Yeah, that's absolutely a good point actually. Especially when you get to like this happens even in your first playthrough. Um, the scene there's this pronounced scene where you see Junko. It's where you're trying to get back to like your parents' house, right? You see
Uh huh.
Junko, and I can't remember if the bride version of Hinako is standing behind Junko, and Junko is basically saying like you have to face this, like you have to do this, right? Like you have to get rid of
Mm
childish things. And then you kind of see Hinako fall to the ground, and you know she kind of changes in form in terms of having like the fox arm and whatnot. That was like a very odd scene for me to watch the first time because I was like, why is Junko so significant even though we rarely see her, and why does she look the way that she does? Because when you see her for the first time, she's alive, right? You know, she's got color and
hmm.
everything.
Right.
And then you see her later in the game, she has a mask on, and it looks like her head has kind of been severed because there are like stitches around her neck and like staples. And I'm like, that's interesting. What has happened? But
Mm,
back to what you said about Hinako losing a part of herself, that was kind of how it was looked upon back in the 1960s for young girls who went through this, where they were like, I'm losing myself, my personality, myself were being killed off in a sense, and so it's just I'm not me.
I mean, we can even make that comparison to like the United States too. Like, was it the 30s or 40s where the housewives would like get lobotomized just to deal with like being the home wife and everything?
Yeah, something
Which
something
is
like
like,
it's crazy.
it, it's like, man, history, right?
Mhm.
But it's like we can make that comparison here because even when Hanako meets the Fox Mask, like even can we talk about the Fox Mask?
Yeah, of course.
or do
We can segue
because
to anything. I mean, there are a lot of characters
because
to cover because you interact with so few, but they're very well rounded and bold in their own way.
it's like there's like 5 cast members but like 25 characters. So like even the Fox Mask arrives, right? And you're like, "Oh, okay." Even I'm sitting here like playing the game first time I'm like, "I know what you are, demon. Are you an Inari or are you?" And then even walk around the town, you see there's references of Inari Sama because like half the town is like more religiously spoken, like, oh, we must play give penance to Inari Sama, and it's like, and I'm sitting here going, oh, hold on, Inaris are scary creatures too, because I don't know if you know this in like Japanese cult mythology, there are 3 types of fox demons out there. You
Okay.
got kitsunes. Kitsunes are like the friendly fox like demons that are, they always look out for humans and they protect humans from evil spirits and things. You're like, okay, so it's like Fox Mask. He's a kitsune, right? He's got the fox tail, he's got the fox face, whatever. But then it's like, well, hold on. There's another one called QBs. And QBs are tricksters. Like, they will play tricks, they will harm humans and things. And you're like, oh, but they look similar to kitsunes.
Hmm.
And then you got Inaris, who are like wrathful like beings that are takes the appearance of foxes. So playing
Interesting.
the whole game and you meet the fox mask, I even sat there every time we interact with them. I'm like, I don't think you're a kitsune, so I swear to God, if you're one of them QBs, I swear to God. And he gives you this like warm impression of like, oh, follow my lantern, I'll take you to safety. And it's like, I mean, he's not killing me, so this is a good start.
Yeah, that is a fair
It's,
interpretation.
and it's also kind of
Excuse me.
interesting, like how he didn't exactly do much. but he was so like focal on the whole story for Hanako's journey.
Mhm. Even when you read like his journals, which one of them was like really creepy, uh, where it talks about how like everything that belongs to Hinako belongs to me, like her voice, her hands, her blood. Like I was like, are
Hmm.
you good, my guy? Like people don't usually write like this about people they love, quote unquote.
Hmm.
Um, and the more that you kind of play into what's happening to Hinako, you kind of understand more about she's probably more than likely in what is considered a very toxic relationship with whoever this person is that she's being married off to, right? Like this person's
Right.
not a good person. Even though they say they'll take care of her, they're probably more than likely
And
not good.
that's when we found out in the second playthrough, like, oh, or even I think it was referenced very lightly in the journals or little notebooks. Oh, the family is like in financial ruin right now because of the dad. It's like that makes sense why like the fox mask is like, oh, well, Hanako is such a sweet girl. I will protect her. I'll do all these things for her. And it's like, why exactly are we trying to marry off our 16-ish looking teenager? And then
Hmm.
again, that goes back to the cultural differences of like, yeah, Japan, arranged marriages was kind of a thing, just like Korea, and so it's not that weird. But then also, oh, marry well into a family of wealth and be able to help each other out because you're family, right? It's like,
Hmm.
okay, I see where this is coming from, but also it even makes more sense over time. But we can we could kind of say that the fox mask wasn't harmful to her. Well,
That's
I
true.
want
So,
to.
Paul, question for you, because I uh, wrote it in one of our notes for our panel today. So here's a question for you:
Yeah.
Does Fox Mask save Hinako or force her to confront what she's become? What are your thoughts?
Ooh. So,
Because it depends,
I
right?
would say,
Are you on your first playthrough or your second playthrough? So you could like chop this up how you see fit, really.
so like I'm basing majority of this off of like the first-ish playthrough
Okay.
because you saw me do like the second half, the second playthrough for like maybe a quarter of it. But yeah,
When you finish it,
essentially.
we'll circle back to like offline, but continue.
So I always saw like the fox mask as like, oh, he's a guide to something he wants. But then seeing, oh my god, all the hydration. I'm sorry. So seeing how the fox mask is not only making her like essentially cross over to the dark side, if you will, it
Mhm.
also gives me an idea that he does care about her, but he has to carve her into his image. So this is something she would have to like address and
Uh,
make these choices.
okay, that's an interesting take on it, actually. Carving her in like his own image, basically being able
Because
to more easily manipulate her if you're looking at it as manipulation, I guess.
especially since Junko kind of solidifies it during a conversation with Hanako, and like you were mentioning, oh, because the spirit was standing behind her. It's like, yeah, you have to address this. So stop being a child and be an adult now. It's like be an adult about something that you yourself are not even sure if you want, but then also everyone around you says, yeah, no, you need to.
Yeah, you have to because we decided for you, but you have to be the adult about it. Like, kind of hypocritical if you think about it.
and then it gets even I'm not sure if I what words to use, but it's like even more pressing, even in the journal when Hanako is like referencing about the fox mask, saying like, oh, it's like I just give him my life, I give him my mind, I give him everything, so now I don't have to essentially take the wheel, and it's like, yes, that's don't because even So it's like even Hanako doesn't want to control her life. Like yeah, she hates seeing like she has no voice in the matter,
Mhm.
and the end goal is like, yep, congratulations, you're getting married. Yay, be happy, be like your sister, and like bring, you know, like great offerings to your family. And it's like, but obviously she doesn't want that, obviously.
Right.
But and then when she's in the other world, Fox Mask goes, okay, first we must do this. Also, here's this giant blade. I need you to sever your arm off for me. And it's like, uh, hold
Yeah.
up.
Basically give more pieces of yourself up to appease whoever is in the equation at the time. Kind of.
So it seems like Hanako is just conflicted throughout the entire time. And then obviously there's like two versions of herself. There's one of her we play as in the real world, and then one in the other world. What are the obviously she's split between it, but then in my take it's like this is what people want me to be in the other world, but herself in control is the real world.
Okay. That's an interesting way to look at it, actually. Because I was actually about to ask, do you think between real world Hinako and otherworld Hinako, which one is considered to be what she's kind of dreaming about, and which one is like actually events that are happening?
Hmm. You know, after like seeing the first playthrough ending, I was even sitting here trying to figure out like was everything she was doing real or not. I'm not entirely sure. Because in your like I don't know, in your point of view, do you think everything she was doing in the real world was real?
I think that yes, everything she was doing in the real world was actually happening. Maybe not necessarily in real time because there is near the ending. I don't know if you remember, you know that billboard you find before you get back to your parents' house where it talks about like a 20-something-year-old woman in a bridal gown is like running amok,
Yeah.
causing chaos. That threw me for a loop because I was like, who are we reading about? Because Hinako that we're playing as is 16, 17 years old. But the billboard you read, and then after you read it, Hinako says something about it. She comments on it, and you're like, that confused me even more. I was like, but you're only about 16 or 17, and this is about a 20 something year old woman. And it kind of goes back to, are the things happening in the other world, the chaos that she is causing as her 20 something self, trying to remember who she was from the ages of 16, 17, being thrown into an arranged marriage, and all the events are just kind of muddled together.
Ooh, that is a good take.
Because it gets confusing. You're just like, wait a second, all this time I'm playing as Hinako, right? And then you read that billboard and I'm just like, are we time skipping? Are we like, what is happening?
It's like, did she break and now she just became a Kuchisaka Onna and now we're just all scared?
Because then it also has to touch on, because it is a psychological horror game, obviously your actions matter, your action or inaction depending on what you do or don't do. So like if you take the red pills, which through my first gameplay I did because I was like, it's a health item, it's going to heal me. What? There's no harm in it, right? Couldn't possibly be.
Right, exactly.
But come to find out there actually is, and then in your second playthrough you're not supposed to take them if you want certain endings to kind of start to unravel, because you can get a different ending depending on what you do. And I thought I was going to struggle because they're abundant, so it kind of feeds into
Mm-hmm.
the fact that Hinako has a problem. She's addicted to this medicine that Shu has been making for her, or she's addicted to something else, and it might not necessarily be the pills, but it touches on some very interesting subjects for her.
Overall, like like so much of a journey, and that's again Silent Hill's like mastercraft of storytelling. It just like yeah, you play it as a psychological horror, ooh scary, ooh darkness, ooh. But when you sit there and go, what's the significance around that? And you're like, oh, I don't know. Why did James have to fight two Pyramid Heads in Silent Hill 2? You riddle me that, Batman. Like everything has like a very specific thing, and you're just like, oh wait, I have to actually sit like as the meme is like, oh, shower thoughts. Like you sit there in the shower, just go, did Hanako do that to her friends because? It's like,
Right. That's a good point. Um, I had a thought and there it went.
yeah.
I think if we're still talking about characters for a moment, my favorite boss battle in this whole game is when you fight Sakuko. It it's such a fun boss battle that's not overly difficult and doesn't have too many mechanics to it, but it's interesting.
Was Sakuko the one where she threw like the chain at you in the
Yeah,
first on the bridge?
yeah,
Okay. That I will say the boss battles were actually kind of decent and fun to deal with. But yeah, definitely Sakuko's like little boss battle. At least it was harmful, like it was challenging, but it wasn't too like, oh, you fucked up. Do it all over again. It's like, oh.
yeah. Like her boss fight is very, very interesting. And now that I'm thinking about it, each of the boss fights, because I was actually kind of upset that we didn't really get a boss fight with Shu, and I understand why we didn't really, but we had one with Rinko, we had one with Sakuko. Why was Shu kind of not included in, um, like a
Some type
mini?
of boss battle.
Yeah, even though technically he kind of is when you think about it, but he didn't get his own standalone thing, and I don't know if that speaks to the fact that Hinako actually had a falling out with Rinko and Sakuko, so therefore that's why they stand out so much. And again, this could just be his character falling flat again, and they needed that to happen because it makes more sense for the other two to take that place.
I definitely will agree saying that the other two have made like a very vocal impact about why Hanako was willing to just cut them off in a way
Mhm.
in comparison to Shu, because in her journal she kept talking like good things about Shu, like, oh, we used to play space battles when we were kids, and he's always been there for me, and I was there for him growing up, and it's like, okay, there's a lot of good things about this Shu character. But then, like, even the writing is like, oh, Sakuko is still a child, and I don't know why she does this and that, and she's vocal about this and that. It's like,
Mhm.
okay. And then Rinko, again, do we really need to discuss Rinko? Because, like, even in the journal, she even points out, like, I don't know why she says mean things about me, or she likes Shu, and it's obvious. I don't know why she thinks that I'm a rival when I gave her my blessing, and it's just like, I get. It's like all the other two
You're
are
not
so
listening.
vocal. Exactly. I'm about to take her name to Twitter because it is very obvious that they did have a falling out, like you mentioned, and with Shu, it was very like daunting
Mhm.
seeing like all three of these characters, right, in the other world. They're like, oh, do you let your friend drop into the lava? It's like, oh, good, we're playing saw traps here with them.
Yeah, that part was interesting. I was like, why are we doing this to our friend? But again, it's in the other world, so is it actually happening? Or is this just how Hinako's envisioning this breakup of this friendship going? Like, well, I've cut them, we've cut each other off, we had an argument, or whatever. I made some notes actually about possibly how Hinako might see the relationship she has. So, for instance, for Sakuko, I made a note that she might see that as a representation of spiritual tradition. And then
Mm-hmm.
for Rinko, it was like a desire for normalcy because Rinko, she liked the pop stuff. She was into fashion. Um, for Shu, I wrote
Modern
down,
things.
yeah, exactly. So for Shu, I have dependency and misplaced trust because of the whole, oh, he was trying to help her, but he got her addicted to a substance. Um, Junko is her idolized self. She wants to be like her sister. She has a good relationship with her sister. Her sister is taking care of her. And then for Fox Mask, I have the subconscious. So depending on how you look at it, is he guiding her, or is he deceiving her, or is Hinako kind of self-sabotaging in a way? So those are just my
I
notes.
will definitely. It's like those are all very good notes, and they really do like personify those things that you just listed because it was obvious, and especially in the journals that Hanako wrote. Because Rinko was like, oh, she always got these new magazines. She let me borrow them and saying I should catch up with the times and things like that. Where it's like, okay, Rinko would most likely want to move to like Tokyo, where the it crowd is there, and then Sakuko was about spiritual tradition, being in a town that's so small where the older generation is still believes in like Inari Sama, which is like possibly the fox mask we would like to believe. Like, oh, we didn't give. It's like, oh, we must pray to him for a good harvest, or maybe the winter won't be as harsh and things like that. So giving all these like offerings. So it's like, okay, so you know, for lack of better terms, like religious preference is still relevant, and it's obvious that Sakuko doesn't want to relinquish that type of traditions. It's like even though like the spiritual world around her was like deteriorating because did you find the old like temple, the ruined
Yes.
temple
Mhm.
in the first playthrough?
Mhm.
So even Hinako was making a reference like, oh, is this the place that Sakuko wanted to be a priestess of? And it's like kind of run down and kind of destroyed for it to be relevant in
Are you
this
talking about the one near the
typical world.
beginning or the one further at the end of the game where you found
Uh,
the tree?
um,
I,
oh,
I found both, but I didn't know which one you
yeah,
were referring
same.
to.
I was saying both,
Okay, yeah, yeah,
essentially both.
yeah. I found both of them because she comments on both of them, and if you go back to the one earlier in the game on your second playthrough, there's a nice little cutscene there.
Ooh, fun.
I won't spoil for you in case you want to go look at it.
Okay. And I don't know, like this entire gameplay and playthrough, I don't know if I was like trying to figure out is the fox mask like an actual person or he is a representation of a yokai. Like I
Hmm.
said before, like, oh, he sounds like a kitsune because he's wearing white, he's well clothed, he speaks nicely to her, and it's like, oh, he's just a kitsune guiding her through the scary darkness until the trials or the rituals happen. You're like, oh, we made mistakes.
Mistakes were made. Oh no.
It's like The Walking Dead. Oh, Kenny will remember this, and it's like, yeah, Sakuko will remember this.
Yeah, can you imagine if that popped up on the screen like some of the what is it the Walking Dead games where like you make a decision, so and so will remember this.
Oh, I would start taking the SATs again. Like that's how serious I would take it.
So I made another note because we touched on the Silent Hill phenomenon earlier in the maybe about 30 minutes ago when we first started. But the game is called Silent Hill F, right? And the F is obviously
Hmm.
like a forte symbol, a meaning of silence,
Yeah,
right? Quietness and
yeah.
stillness. And I kind of made the note of shame of silence and beauty. So like because of the time in which the game takes place and because Hinoko is a young woman, it kind of makes sense and it's a very smart thing that they did to name the game the way that they did because Hinako is kind of suffering in silence with her feelings. Um, as we kind of see, she doesn't really tell Shu about certain things. She doesn't tell the Fox Mask about certain things. She has
Hmm.
told Sakuko or Rinko certain things, and it kind of has like backfired on her. Um, all that comes full circle basically to a. I think it's a note that you can find in the original Silent Hill 2 game, and the quote is something like, "The town doesn't punish; it listens until you hear what you've buried," and it kind of touches on like a lot of different things, and it works really well with this game too.
Which is very true because that is a really good quote. The town doesn't punish, and that is so true because even looking comparing this to like Silent Hill 2, since most of our audience has seen us play both of them, that is such a true thing because James, for instance, he went to Silent Hill. Do we get attacked immediately? No. But when the other world appears, everything that he was running from was attacking, especially those other quote unquote survivors he encountered
Mhm.
had to face what they have done or what they were trying to hide. It makes sense, especially for Hanako here. It's like she has no mouth and she must scream, basically.
Yeah. Mhm. Which that's actually a really good segue for us to like go and talk about the enemies a little bit, if you would like to, or we can segue to another part of the panel that we had planned. Um,
Oh, definitely, we can go into the monsters and the creatures that we encountered.
Perfect. Um, so basically, one of the first enemies you encounter is called the Kashimashi, and basically that means noisy or boisterous. But these are the mannequin-like enemies that kind of have their faces like very, very like um, muddled and like configured in a very like malicious way. Some of them have long flowing hair, some have, short bobs. But when you attack these enemies in certain ways, they kind of bend over backwards. And that's a dark undertone for the time and how wives would basically bend over backwards for their husbands and do whatever they were asked to do in the time frame.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of is another smart correlation of the time period in which the game takes place, the female generational roles, if you will, for the time period, and what Hinako sees these monsters as.
It is very interesting because I think I spent like my first run through trying to just really analyze what these creatures are trying to portray because again Silent Hill 2 did a good job of like saying, hey, why are there so many nurses, and it's like, where do you think James had to go visit? So I kind of sat there as trying to figure that out. In the Kashimashi,
Mhm.
there was a lot of them, so that does make sense because again, in a more traditional town, right?
Mhm. So you're on your second playthrough currently, right?
Yeah.
So there is one of these that you can find in town, and it's interesting because this one's not really acting like the others. It's standing at a certain doorway, and it's just constantly stabbing the doorway, like it's trying to get in through the door. Um, and it's kind of like hidden down a little alleyway, but it's interesting that it's doing that action. It doesn't stay doing that action for long. Obviously, as soon as it realizes that you're in the vicinity, it will, change to attack you. But it's the only one I have found, and I think it's a nice little Easter egg to find in your second playthrough of like, okay, why are you trying to get into this house? Because then it's like, did this thing have a little bit of consciousness left and this is its home, or is something going down? Like, what's happening? So it's just a
Yeah,
cool little
right.
Easter egg.
And what other creatures do we have? We had, I don't know, I had a lot of fun
hmm
with the scarecrow looking ones. What were they called?
Oh,
The Aya Kakashis?
yeah, the Ayakashis, which are, yokai, which I figured those might be your favorite.
Oh, yeah.
Or one of your favorites.
It's like they're definitely top 3 up in there
the
because the
Go ahead.
significance of them all being like school kids was interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting because I guess you could kind of wonder if it's how Hinako saw her classmates, maybe.
Ooh, like not really, like they kind of like faceless, but then also they weren't really significant or interacted with her
Yeah.
unless she interacted with them,
Mhm. Because she was on
which makes
because she was an athlete, right? So there's a few notes that talk about how she was on the track team.
yeah.
So there's a part where you go into like the locker room in the school, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like, okay, so she must have had some other interactions besides just the core friendships with like Shu and Rinko and Sakuko. So is that what those relationships look like? This monster that you end up fighting throughout the game?
Hmm. I
Something to think about.
yeah, er, and it's also kind of interesting where they, like I said before, like they didn't get on your case unless you interacted with them.
Mhm.
Especially that first puzzle when we get introduced with them. First of
Yeah,
all,
that was a
I
good
think that
puzzle.
was the coolest. That was such a
Yeah.
cool puzzle.
I didn't know what I was doing at first. I was like, what is happening? And I was like, oh. Like, I almost royally screwed myself my first playthrough because you only have so many weapons up into that point. And I kept
Yes.
getting the wrong one. And I was just like, what am I doing wrong? I barely scathed my way through that puzzle. But it's a good one. I really do like that puzzle.
Even my chat was like sitting there like, he's like, why are you touching the statues? I'm like, well, one of them's moving. I hear it.
Tink, 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 tink. It's just like, hold on a second. Stop it.
He's like, get your Hayao Miyazaki out of my goddamn Silent Hill game.
I
The
think
scarecrows are our friends.
I think my favorite. I have a love-hate relationship with this enemy, but the Irohihi, so like the baboon-looking enemy that can have like a it has like a floral face and it can be like on
Oh,
fire kinda.
yes, that a god.
I really like
I
those things, but I also really hate them. Like the first time I played this game, I got to a point. I was near the end where you kind of have to do several like significant fights back to back to back, of just like small waves of monsters, right? And there were a couple of
yes.
them, and I kept dying, and I have never been so mad in my life.
I remember I got cornered in a room with like three of them, and I was just like, I hate these things so specifically.
But
But also, like, what would be the significance of
um,
those things?
so I did a little bit of digging. So apparently
As a lore
their
queen, you are.
their name can kind of be um, translated into dirty old man or pervert looking. Um, so
Oh,
it's yeah, but they are considered to be a baboon-like creature in Japanese folklore. But their name Iroh and Hihi does kind of form dirty old man or pervert or
which
perverted looking.
I will definitely say that is not exactly a trope, but that is something that's just kind of normal, for lack of better phrasing, in Japan. Like, even to this day, that's still an issue.
Mhm.
Whereas, like, the older businessman likes to hit on the nice 20 something or younger year olds, and it's just like, go away, dude. No, but in this context for Hanako, it might make sense because even if let's just assume for conversation's sake that she never left town, like her getting like leaving the town is like the ending of the game. Like, let's say that's she's just born and raised there. It would make sense like this is a creature we would encounter due to the fact that majority of the town she grew up in is more of the older persuasion.
Mhm. Okay.
So it's also give reason to believe that, yeah, it's probably normal that she was probably approached by older seniors when she goes to like the store, when she goes to school, or probably walking home from her track meets. So,
It's true because you can also
yeah,
tie that into. Do you remember the cutscene on the playground where we see young Hinako save the boy from the fox?
yes,
That boy looks to be what, maybe 3, 4 years older than Hinako. So we can
possibly, yeah.
also assume that even though that because that technically is Fox Mask when you think about it in the real world, and they
Mm-hmm.
approach Hinako's parents about marrying their daughter, and they are, it's not that much of an age gap if I'm within the right ballpark of ages, but it still is an older person who's like, hey, I want to marry your daughter, and we're a well-off family, and XYZ, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's very, very interesting. But yeah, I like those enemies, and I absolutely hate them. On my second playthrough, because I obviously have gone through and I've found like a lot of the omamoris so that you can like, or the enmas I mean, so
Mm-hmm.
that you can like upgrade your stats. They're a little easier, but just normal playthrough without like having anything stacked or statted, it's like, oh my god, these guys can take like half your health and there's nothing you can do about it because they're so fast.
I will say I don't know. It felt a little upsetting playing and fighting these enemies because for some reason Silent Hill didn't feel like Silent Hill for a moment. It felt
Mhm.
like Dark Souls
Mhm.
for some reason. Because it's like, oh, here's like 6 enemies. I'm like, oh, that's scary. And then goes, oh, you better dodge the attack, dodge the attack. Okay, swing at it. Also,
Mhm.
you're out of stamina. It's like, uh.
I have actually seen a lot of discourse about that, especially towards the later portion of the game where it's just kind of wave after wave of like enemies, and a lot of people have stated it doesn't feel like a Silent Hill game. And I can understand that point of view, but when you look at this game and what it's trying to convey to you psychologically, it kind of makes sense for Hinako to feel like she is just battling wave after wave of constant loss and grief and having to understand why things are happening the way that they are. So the monsters that she's having to go through and fight is her fighting herself and trying to understand, at least in my opinion, why everything is happening the way that it's happening. If that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And then what was another creature? We have I don't know, the amalgamation of like faces that sounded
Oh
like school children.
yeah. Those are called uh oi omoi, so heavy with emotion or heavy with thought from what I could find. I those things are creepy to me. Like I would not want to meet one in a dark alley. I wouldn't want to meet any of these enemies in a dark alley, but that one I'm just
Oh,
like,
definitely.
I was like, you're gonna scream at me for a very long time, which can get annoying. Um,
And then spew acid everywhere and
yeah,
things.
it's just like, ugh. Also the Dark Hatcher, so the lady that kind of spews out other enemies like the dolls. Oh my god, I hated fighting her
I
for the
hate
first time.
I hated that thing too.
I was like, oh my god, what do I do? Why?
It's like it made me break like 2 lead pipes just to kill the one. Like leave
Yeah.
it alone.
Mhm.
But also we could that one seems a little obvious of what that's personifying.
It is, and I hate it. Just full stop. No
Okay.
explanation needed.
No notes, no PowerPoint, just I hated
Nope.
it.
Yep.
As both
I
as a character I have to fight and a reason like why it exists.
absolutely. It was just it's gross. Ugh. You know, it's just like
Like
mm.
I will definitely say like I know again Japan is very traditional, so I could see how Hinako would have that creature personified because it's like kind of like as we would relate it to United States culture of like, oh, be a a traditional wife, bear many children, raise a household, raise a family, and it's like Japan kind of has like the same mentality almost.
Mhm.
So that as a creature, where it's like, yeah, the idea of just being a baby factory and being devoted to your husband, it's like that's probably daunting, especially if you have no choice in the matter.
Yeah,
both
absolutely.
both morally and psychologically.
Morally and psychologically. You're not wrong. Definitely not. But that's a pretty good overview of the enemies. There's one that we meet um when we first go to like the other world, and we meet Vox Mask, and you have to find the different little ornaments and turn them over in the right order to get like a key or something. The Kamogara, like we only see him like once or twice, and then we don't really see him anymore. And he's only found in the other world. But interesting little tidbit of a fight for those monsters. They're not overly populated in the world like some of the other enemies are, I think.
Mm-hmm. It was that the giant.
the shackle
flesh thing.
monster.
Oh, the shackle thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one you're thinking of is the Ara. Oh my, well,
The
well.
Arabare.
Yeah.
When I first saw that
I
thing,
was
I
like, ugh.
legit was sitting there thinking, like, oh god, is this the Japanese friggin' pyramid head? Is this?
Oh man, no, not the Japanese pyramid head. Yeah, because I think you first see that one when you're trying to get into the storehouse with Shu and Rinko,
Yes.
and you have to get the key from the well, which that was annoying. But fun fact, I found a way
Very.
to cheese that boss fight. If you just stay, there's like a little cart in the area. If you can just skirt around that when he does his dash attack, and you just wail on him, and then just run to the other side when he gets back up, you don't get hit at all. It's easy.
I think I swung into him like 3 times, and I was like, oh, you're probably like a pyramid head. I'm just gonna get the key and run.
You can defeat him. I thought you would get achievement if you defeated him, but you don't. You get an achievement if you defeat the one that Shu and Rinko sneak past at the general store. So
Mm.
my second playthrough, I went and got that achievement because I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do the things that I was too scared to do in my first playthrough.
Even looking at some of these notes about that creature, I'm not entirely sure how to like really dissect what it is or what it's supposed to represent for Rinko.
You mean Hinako?
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah, Hinako.
You're good. You're good. I don't really know other than because that enemy doesn't really become significant until you fight her parents as a boss,
Yeah,
and her father
which
kind of
even that
looks
was a
like
pain
a
in the ass.
yeah. Because I was like, oh, I gotta fight two of you. What? What?
It's like I'm beating the mom's ass all day every day because that one's a little bit more easier to deal
Yeah, you
with.
gotta take her down first, and then you can take down dear Papa. But that boss fight actually surprised me because I didn't know that from the cutscene. I didn't know it was going to be you're fighting both of them. I thought it was just going to be you're fighting the dad because we only see the contention she kind of has with her dad, even though she writes about how she doesn't like how her mom just kind of lays there and like takes the cruelty of her dad in terms of words.
Yeah, which again, it's like new generation, different generations, new era of things, and you can see the frustration on
Hmm.
every page in this journal.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a very good fight though. Once you get down like what you're supposed to do, it is a good fight and there are differences in that cutscene. Obviously, if you're on your first playthrough or second playthrough, there are a little bit of differences in what happens, which is
Hmm.
nice. Um, but all in all, I think that that is a good boss fight too. Um, other than the Sakuko one, I think I did really like the Rinko boss fight, although I had to do that one a couple of times my first playthrough because of the little minions that she can summon.
Yeah,
But
definitely. Like,
let's talk about the boss fight for the first playthrough. You get this boss fight no matter what, where you kind of have to fight yourself. Hinako has to face herself as like the Shiramuku, so she's this brided, like wedding gowned up Hinako, and you're kind of fighting yourself. Like, how did you feel like doing that boss fight?
so I think I had to cheese that a few times. I think it took me 2 or 3 times. I'm sure my chat's gonna sit through like, no, it took you like 10 times. It was interesting because even on like an allegorical sense, she is fighting herself,
Mhm.
and like because we all probably have like something similar, like, oh, if I do it this way, it's wrong and everyone's gonna hate me, but morally I would feel justified because of this and this. So it's interesting to see that she definitely does not want this, but it's like her other self essentially saying, look, you're not an old enough adult. Your parents saying you're going to do this. There is no other options here. So the whole facing yourself on these choices, quote unquote, being made is a very telling thing. especially
Right.
for story aspects.
I agree. I really like the concept of how this boss looks because the rest of the world is very dark and kind of dingy, and there are pops of color here and there, but just enough to where you kind of match it to the horror style or the fact that it is a Silent Hill game or the fact that it is psychological horror. And then you have this one boss fight who is stark white in white robes. They have the head covering. It's just kind of a very large contrast to what you see throughout the game in terms of like color aspects and color theory.
That's also true. Yeah. And it's also, do you think there was any significance between all these bosses?
In
When I
terms,
say of like, so I think was it Rinko and Sakuko that had like more fire based attacks, while that creature of the fog, if you will, had more ice based.
I guess that makes sense. So like Sakuko's boss fight dealt with like light, like her little bell emitted like this
Yeah,
ear piercing like light, and then Rinko dealt a lot with fire. And then the final boss fight kind of caught on with like the spider lilies. Like those were used kind of a lot, and they could like ensnare you and um, all kinds of other things. So I don't really know if there's a correlation in terms of what you're speaking of, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was. Because most of the enemies that you fight in this game, with the select few, are all female presenting, right?
true.
And then you have a few that aren't. So it's very interesting to see that contrast.
But definitely, out of all the bosses that I've encountered, I would definitely say fighting herself with, again, it felt very Dark Soulsy. So
Mhm.
I think I spent most of my points in the game on increasing her stamina, because it's like you had to like dodge like 4 times in a row
Mhm.
from that creature, and then you're able to land a one hit into her, and it's like, well, better drink this divine water and just keep going.
So I I like I said, I'm on my second playthrough. So when you play it for a second time, you don't fight the Shiramuku. Um, you fight a different version because it's a different ending, and I won't tell you what it's
Yeah,
called. That way you can kind of depending on what ending
experience it.
you get. Yeah, so depending on what ending you're getting, you the with the normal ending you'll fight the Shiramuku, but for the other three endings, you'll fight a different type of boss. And one of those is something you've kind of already mentioned that you said you didn't want Fox Mask to be, if that helps you at all.
Yeah.
So I think that
It's
that's
like
kind of cool.
I've seen a lot of people on Facebook and things post like little art. It's like what she had to do to her parents. It's like a little cute drawing of like putting them all in timeout. Foxmask like acts up, puts him in timeout. I'm like, something tells me we have to fight that thing eventually.
But did you find it interesting because you started your second playthrough? So the very first cutscene after you hit like continue or start new game or whatever, where you have the kitchen scene where Hinako walks out and her dad's telling her to come back, right?
Yes.
Um, so that cutscene plays out very differently the first playthrough than it does the second playthrough. So the second playthrough, you actually get the confirmation of, I think, where Hinako says something like, "It's not my fault that you're in debt" or whatever, and she walks out. And you don't hear that in the first playthrough. You just assume it's, parents having an argument with their child. She decides to walk out, right?
Right. Even that's what makes me kind of confused, and I don't know if this is just like the American way of playing video games, but it's like, freaking, as much as I knew from Silent Hill growing up. I was just like, oh yeah, you just play it one time, it's really good, it's classic. But then realizing, yeah, no, Silent Hill, you have to play the game like 3 or 4 times, and it's like, why would I want to do that besides just enjoying the game? And they're like, yeah, because different endings. Because like, what was it, the Shiba dog ending for
Yeah,
Silent Hill 2?
the UFO
It's like,
ending.
wait, it's like, wait, there's an ending where the dog controls Silent Hill. Wait, what?
Yes. Yeah.
So things
There's a
like that
UFO
where
ending, and yeah, it's awesome.
so it's like, oh, so I have to play the game multiple times to get more of a context. So like you mentioned, oh, you played it the second time. Did you see how the narrative changed a bit? Where it's like, oh, now we're just harping more into the idea that dad's in debt. It's the family's fault. Family's frustrated, but only Hinako was like standing up and like calling it out.
Right.
So it's like, oh, this raises even more questions about what else is going to be revealed.
That's actually a very good point. Is a good point indeed. Let's kind of segue from talking about like bosses and characters to a little bit more about like the puzzles in the game. Like we talked a little bit about the scarecrow puzzle, so let's kind of delve a bit more into that and other puzzles that you find throughout the game.
Okay, yeah, let's definitely migrate into that one.
So you
I
mentioned
will.
that your favorite puzzle is the scarecrow one, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I think, do I have a favorite one? I feel like it's the one where you decide how to cut the lights off for Sakuko.
Oh, I had to look up a hint for that one. That
I
one, I tried to brute force that one a little bit, but it is interesting how that was done. I will definitely say.
yeah, that one gave me, I think because of how that room looks when you're doing that puzzle, it gave me a lot of like Fatal Frame vibes. Specifically Fatal
Oh,
Frame 2. Because there's a part in Fatal Frame 2 where you get to crawl through like a small little door and your character will bend down, and it looks similar to the room that Sakuko is actually in during that puzzle. Um, and then the puzzles I think were actually very well thought out. They kind of fit. The only puzzle I actually needed help on was when you had to go through Hinako's house and you had to hang up the different photos.
that one was actually kind of fun
That one
too.
was fun, but I didn't understand like what it was asking of me until I like went and read like I think like someone's post on Reddit. I'm like, oh, I was doing it backwards.
There was there was like my audience will definitely be vocal about this because there was a few puzzles that kicked my ass a little too hard, and I was a little embarrassed that it did. And one of them was like the somewhat of the first puzzles you interact with, which was that I think it was in the school or whatever, and you had the puzzle box,
Mhm.
and they would have like a short story with it.
Oh
I think
yeah.
I read I think I read that one a little too hard because the first one was like, "Oh, I remember when we went to go get parfaits. Can you still remember the taste?" And I'm like, "Okay, that sounds simple. Oh, look, these are grapes. Oh, it's an apple. Oh, it's this. Why is the puzzle box not opening?" I and then I got my chat sitting there like, "Bro, it's all the fruit ones." I'm like, "I is this not all the fruit ones?" And I realized I had to like look it up. I was like, "Oh, that one I thought was a lotus flower is actually an orange." I'm like, "Okay, I guess I'm just stupid."
Oh man.
So, so like there was a lot of that kind of concept with me playing this game with the
Mhm.
puzzles. I'm just like, "Well, what do you mean? Is it not? Is that an apple or is that something else?" Like, dude, that's like an organ. I'm like, "How am I supposed to know this? I need an adult. I need a chart."
Yeah, they did an amazing job on thinking out these puzzles and how they tie in to the different endings and how to solve them. Um, because I remember in older Silent Hill games, so like Silent Hill 3, for instance, when you're in the other world in the hospital, and if especially if you're on like normal or harder difficulty, figuring out a certain combination to get through one of the doors is an absolute nightmare
Oh god.
because
I
it's
yeah.
so difficult to understand this riddle that this person has put into this document for your character to pick up, and I was just like, what is happening? But in this game, they did a very well-rounded job of helping you with clues on what to do, no matter which difficulty you're on. Now, for people who are playing on Lost in the Fog mode, bless your heart, because oh my god, I don't think I could do it.
I think our good friend Visionary was attempting that shit too. I'm just like, bro, I don't have I have like carpal tunnel just thinking about it.
They actually just introduced a casual mode for this game. It was released on the 13th of November. And they have fixed a lot of bug issues, and they've also, so the part you and I were talking about earlier where you have to go through like wave after wave of enemies, they've kind of condensed that down to be less. Um, because they're listening to people, which is great. They should. So.
They should just be like the company who made the Sonic movie. They listened and look, they were rewarded in kind.
They were, absolutely. But
Let's see, what
another
other
puzzle,
puzzles?
the mural puzzle, do you remember that one where you had to get like was it the birds, the white and black birds, and
Oh
hit
my
on the.
god,
I couldn't get that one right. I was just like, I don't understand what you want me to do.
I I was like I said, how I explained my thought process on things. I was staring at that for like probably 10 minutes. My chat's probably go like, "Bro, just put the murals together." I'm like, where? There's like 35 holes and I have 3 items. Like, what am I supposed to do?" I I kind of figured, and then when I had to look this up because I'm like, where am I supposed to put this? I was on the right track. It just wasn't clear of where I was supposed to do it.
Right. I didn't.
And I was
I
so
always have to look
upset.
that one up because I'm like, okay, I know I'm supposed to put. Because the puzzle is something like. Oh, God, what is it?
Was it like the blackbird? It tries to fly away. The white bird keeps the blackbird here or whatever, and then the fox does not
Yeah, it's
like
something like that. And I'm
matter or
like,
whatever.
yeah, and I'm like, okay, but where? Where do you want me to put these medallions?
And I was so upset because I was on the right track. I'm like, well, look at these foxes. This one probably doesn't know conflict, so it's got to be this one in the very front or inside the carriage or whatever. And I'm looking at it, I was like, well, this guy looks like he's trying to run away, and this one is like being an asshole. Sounds good. Nothing? Okay, let me, you know what? Google. And then to find out, I was right about 2 to 3 of those things. I'm like, are you serious? Just wrong placement?
That's funny. Yeah, I did that one for a little while on my own before I was just like, I gotta look something up because I don't know what I have wrong. Um, and even when I looked it up and I put it in the right place, it's like I still don't understand how this relates in terms to what the riddle is saying. But we're moving on. So, um, we're sitting at about an hour and 40. So, would you like to take a quick break to like, grab a drink, go to the bathroom real quick, and then reconvene? Because I do need to go to the bathroom.
Okay, yeah.
So,
We can
just
definitely take a stopping point right
yeah,
now.
put our BRB screens up and then just come back. Um, say about 5 minutes.
Yep, sounds good. We'll be right back,
Be
everybody,
right
with our
back,
deep
guys.
dive of Silent Hill.
We're back, everybody.
Hello, friends. So we are still on the topic of the puzzles in the game, correct?
Yeah, we touched on them for a little bit, just kind of like what our favorite ones were and um, ones we struggled with. I can't really think of how those might be really related to anything psychologically, except for the first puzzle box, because that is touching on Rinko and how she feels about Shu. But the other ones I'm not really too sure on. I can't think of a theme that they kind of touch on. What do you think?
Neither do I. I feel like the puzzle box in the school is probably like the only, I would say, illusion we encountered of like how Hanako is interacting with her friends and like how it is today.
Hmm.
Because it was her and Rinko getting parfaits as little girls. You're like, oh, okay, so they're still good friends. And then seeing how they are now, it's like, oh, why did it change so much for them, kind of thing.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I don't recall any other puzzle except for maybe like the scarecrow puzzle because you find some notes about people getting lost in the fields and trying to avoid the bad scarecrow that's out there, and you can tell which one is the good scarecrow because of how it smiles or something like that. Um, but to
And then
that
everything else
effect,
was
go ahead.
just straight up like, I was gonna say, it's like all the, yeah, most of the puzzles were just straight up like, hey, did you read the note? All right, here's your puzzle pieces. Go figure it out. It's like, oh, okay.
Basically. So here's a question for you, because I know I touched on the fact that I didn't figure out what was in the fog until I started my second playthrough. At what point do you think you figured out what was actually chasing Hinako?
I think it was, gosh, I don't know what came first, the chicken or the egg in this one. It was when the creature was when you were fighting her, and it like they start swinging at you with like a fox arm, and I was just like, okay, are you one of them like
Mhm.
yokai types that I know, or are you just a made up creature? And then Hanako herself goes through the procedure, the ritual, and it's like, oh, wait, hold on. And then it just more and more of the ritual
Mhm.
came to fruition.
Okay. So piggybacking off of that, what do you think about how they presented the changing that Hinako goes through for Fox Mask, where she gets the fox arm and then she gets the fox mask? Like, what are your interpretations of that?
Definitely in a way that her herself explains in her journal, of like she's willing to give up her mind, her body, so she can let someone else in control. Like basically saying like Jesus take the wheel. She's letting the fox mask takes the wheel for her life, and it's like, oh, baby girl, no, don't do that. That,
Yeah.
and then you kind of like look around her. It's like that's what her sister did. And it's like, so
True.
especially with the ritual, like, and even for Hanako, there was no reason to distrust Fox Mask,
Right.
because even in the beginning, he was like, "Oh, you need to be more careful. It's dangerous in this area," kind of thing. It's like, "Oh, you're a soft-spoken, gorgeous-looking man," because I know my chat has been vocal about how gorgeous that man is.
Hey, first off, you gotta understand, like, especially if you're a millennial, you grew up more than likely if you liked anime, you grew up watching Inuyasha, so
And I was,
you fell in love with Shishomaru, and if you
why?
watch Yu Yu Hakusho, you fell in love with Kurama, who then changes into Kitsune, so you were like, yeah, white hair, it's already over.
It's like, how dare you? That was like literally in the forefront of my mind. I was like, yeah, everyone wanted Inuyasha Shishomaru, and you're like, yeah, Inuyasha. I'm like, god damn it.
I mean, I'm just saying, like there's a pattern. White
It's like,
hair, yep, you can do whatever Oh, you want me to throw myself off a cliff? You got white hair. You got it, baby girl. I'll see you in hell. Like, I mean,
It's like
Konami knew what they were
that.
doing when they gave Fox Mask white hair. That's all I'm saying. They knew. They were like, yeah, this is gonna work. No problem.
With the piercing glowing eyes and everything, like, yeah, no,
Exactly.
it was a wrap. It was a wrap in the beginning.
Absolutely. Um, Piggybacking back to how she like got the fox arm and the fox mask. What were your initial thoughts watching those cutscenes where you saw what was happening?
So both as like for storytelling purposes, that is like aggressive. Like she is willing to go through that much for this individual. It's like that's true devotion, essentially. Like true cause writing. But also on a technical scale of like, cinematography and everything, that was so good. Like it was
Hmm.
so like you could see her struggling at a certain point in her arm for
Hmm.
that first ritual.
Yep.
It's just like, oh my god, she's actually showing like she's hitting like tendons and like she's hitting a bone and things. It's like,
Yeah.
ah, oh
It
god.
it
And
truly goes to speak to her mindset or lack thereof because you can see the way that they modeled her face to show emotion, especially pain and anguish, anxiety, fear, while she's doing that, was masterful.
mm-hmm, that is also kind of impressive. Like, uh, I just like. So I'm trying to like compare it to any other games. Do we have any other games out there, or even movies in recent years that would go full frontal with that stuff? Because I feel
Um,
like how they showcased her like transformation was
mm,
very tame, but then also I feel like if we didn't have like the council culture of today, I'm sure this would have been very like
so
this would be like on the news just as much as
yeah,
Modern Warfare 2's campaign
of
was.
course. So that's a good point. I think it goes back to when we were talking about like cultural differences. So what's so intellectually wonderful about Japanese horror or Asian horror or however you want to categorize it is the fact that you don't see everything works so beautifully. Like when you look at like The Grudge, um, it
You're left
works
with your imagination.
right. And so the fact that you only see her face and a portion of the saw while she's doing this, or the fact that you see just a little bit of what happens when she gets the fox mask herself, it works so
Mhm.
beautifully and wonderfully versus if this were an American game, it would have been like you mentioned full frontal and it would have been about the gore because that's what works in American culture for horror themed things that aren't falling under the psychological umbrella. But it wouldn't work for this game is my personal opinion.
That is an interesting take because I felt like it's the opposite honestly because like it seems like the movie Battle Royale, that's a Japanese movie
Mhm.
where yeah, people are
I read
getting
the
cut in
manga of
half
that.
and oh so like there was like actual gore, even grindhouse films like Chainsaw Girl, which is like a Japanese grindhouse film. Like, oh, people are getting chopped in half. Oh, blood's everywhere.
Yeah.
And I feel like in Japanese culture, like that's kind of like, yeah, it's a movie, it's a horror movie, and yes, so what? But then like in the United States, we are so quick to jump on social media and say cancel this game, it's too bloody, it's too whatever, and it's like,
Mhm.
do you not think that's what would happen if someone's arm got chopped off in a war zone? Like what?
Yeah.
So I think they did a good job of like saying like portraying like, hey, she's going through a transformation, but yeah, this is gonna be like left to the imagination of like, what do you think her face looks like? Because she's cutting away at her own flesh, or what do you think is gonna happen? How is she able to recover from this and all that?
Mhm. That's another good point. Because I feel that for a lot of Japanese horror, or maybe just Japanese media in general, it's kind of left up a lot to, what you don't see works out better versus if you were to see everything kind of laid out in front of you. But I guess it also depends because you've mentioned several titles just now on, are you falling under the umbrella of this is gore, or are you falling under the umbrella of there is some gore but it is psychological? You need to understand the pain and other emotions Hinako is going through while she is sawing off her own arm. And to further that point, it gets even darker because how different would that scene have been if one of the maidens had cut her arm off versus Hinako doing it herself?
Ooh. I think that would. Ooh, I don't know because I a little bit wanted to say like that would definitely change the narrative a bit because first like instinct would be like, oh, if Hanako's not doing it and the maidens were doing it, this is just her following the ritual. But I think it's more impactful now I'm thinking about it if like Hanako herself did it
Right.
because she's making that choice.
I just thought about that just now. Like, how different would that cutscene be if it wasn't Hinako doing the disfiguring or the dismembering of
Yeah,
herself? Like, would it be just a moot point? Would it change the entirety of that scene completely? Would it not even be a, a drop in the water, so to speak? Like, how would that look?
that is interesting. Yeah, I don't.
And then to also like add to that point, we could then go to, so this game has a very significant content warning once you boot the game up. I'm sure you've read it,
Yeah,
you've probably seen posts about it, but I'm going to read it for people who don't know what we're talking about. But it says content warning, and then it says this game contains depictions of gender discrimination, child abuse, bullying, drug induced hallucinations, torture, and graphic violence. This game is set in Japan in the 1960s and contains depictions based on the customs and culture of that time. The depictions do not reflect the opinions or values of the developers or any individuals involved. If you feel uncomfortable at any point while playing, please take a break from playing or speak to someone you trust. This is the only game that Konami has ever made that has such a warning like this. I mean, there are other
that is
warnings
true.
that are like, blood and gore, it's rated M for mature, but this one, it kind of caught media and a few eyes by storm because this game got completely blanket blocked in Australia because of this warning,
Yeah,
which is
it's
interesting.
it's like even I don't. That's been the conversation piece for a while now, especially with the gaming culture. Like in well, I don't know how to explain this. It seems like every country who does anything that the United States likes, they kind of pander to the United States standard, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it's like even with the gaming companies today, right? Where we are like trying to make like woke terms and things in games. Like everyone likes to bring up like Dragon Age, saying like, "Oh, this character likes to identify as they them. They are non-binary." Where I'm kind of sitting here seeing this scene, I'm like, does that matter anything specific for this character, or is it just character development? Is this part of the story? But in reality, it's like not really. They still fight the dragon at the end, or the monster, or the boss. It's like, oh,
Mhm.
okay, I guess. Same thing with like how we as the United States, we understand like the anime industry.
Yeah.
It is such a toxic environment, but yet
Mhm.
we're the biggest consumers of it. So it feels like Konami probably did the safe thing, saying, "Hey, there's some heavy topics in this game. If you're not feeling comfy about this, you should probably take a break and go talk to someone about it." And it's like, one, that's safe, especially in this modern era, and
Mhm.
two, as you just mentioned, where everyone in the world goes, why would they make a warning so specific about it? It's like because they know their audience and they have to say something.
Mhm. And it also, I think, goes back to how we were talking about cultural differences. It's an extension of the fact that Konami is mostly a Japanese company, right? I mean, yes, they have a U.S.
Yes.
based location, but they're based out of Japan. Neobards, I'm not too sure where they're affiliated out of. They may be US based, they may be somewhere else in the world. But I think it's also an extension of this is a normal practice for games that are produced and released in some areas versus others. So while the US obviously does have, we have action movies, horror games. So we do have like warnings for most things like that, but this is the first of its kind because of the time frame in which this game is set.
And at the same time, you don't exactly want to too glamorize certain things,
Yes.
as like we consistently been trying to do for some reason.
I think it's also
Whether
good
it's
to
like a
just
political
cover
thing.
all your bases as well. Because you know for sure if they didn't have a warning like that, something would be said somewhere about, oh, well, I didn't know this was going to happen, and now I'm upset because my 13-year-old child played this game or whatever.
It would definitely be like the same conversation piece people had with Deadpool when it first came into theaters. Oh, I
Yep.
thought this was a superhero movie. Why is there guns and violence and sex in there? It's like,
Yeah, why is he
did
saying
you
the
not see
F
the rated
word?
R?
Yeah, like, hello?
Hello, parents? There's a rated R? We people pay thousands upon millions of dollars for this company to review movies and say it is not safe for kids. Like, really?
This is
I'm willing
absolutely true.
if the if the government came and said, "Hey, your tax dollars are going to the movie like motion picture people to like rate movies," I'd be like, "Yep, makes sense." Like I would not sit there like what the sign says, "Oh, I want my tax dollars back." No, I'm just like, "Yep, at least that is being paid well in some way."
Mhm. Absolutely.
And I will definitely say, based on the psychological aspects of like how vastly different it is, because even if people never knew about the history or even remotely look at like their own families too, this would be so jarring if you have like, baby brain, like never touched a video game and this is your first time playing anything with history. This would
Mhm.
be so jarring in comparison.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure, especially if you've never played a Silent Hill game.
Especially.
So, I think if you were to pick up, and this is what's happening now as like generations, people are playing this game as their first Silent Hill game, which is
Ooh.
100% perfectly fine because you got to start somewhere. So, it's kind of interesting to see people play this game, beat this game, and it's their first Silent Hill game, and then they go and they play like Silent Hill 2 Remake. And then they're either pleasantly surprised or they're easily disappointed.
Oh, definitely. It's it would be like it's like the same conversation that you would have with your friends. Like, oh, like I remember growing up playing like Call of Duty, for instance. I'm always like, oh, guys, the campaign was so good. Did you guys play this? And they're like, dude, I have not played a single campaign. It's like, well, how do you know if like they, developed more into it or they actually crafted some characters that are worth it? So it would be crazy. It's so I'm assuming like people play Silent Hill F and go like, oh, this is better than Silent Hill 2. And it's like, well, why? And they're like, because Silent Hill 2 makes no sense. And it's like, Silent Hill 2 is almost a 20-year-old game, right?
Yup.
Especially since are they thinking of doing Silent Hill 3 as a remake?
I don't know at this point. The last that they have teased officially was they're rebooting the very first Silent Hill game, which I am so excited about. So excited. It's such a good game.
And
So,
it's like if you got people like me that go, I missed out on all the glory days of Silent Hill, so I get to play it for once.
yeah, I would recommend if you can to play the original Silent Hill, especially if you just like how old PS1 graphics looked. Um, it's definitely one of those games that it has its quirky little things about it, but it has aged well. in terms of it being a PS1 game, and you were to play it today. So
I will definitely say it's like the hardest thing about playing old games is like you have to walk yourself back. Like what was logical back in those days?
like I'm trying. What was really funny about that game, so the original Silent Hill, is you could run your character into like walls and like they would actually like do the motion where like they'd put their hands up after they hit the wall, and it was so funny to me as a kid. I mean, I was 10 years old, but you could also like w- walk off the edge of stairs and your character would fall, and it was kind of funny. I don't know why that just sticks out in my brain, but the story and the gameplay in that game are very strong on their own, and just as they are in Silent Hill F.
Let's see. Was there any other like psychological things? Because we did mention about like the red pills that she was taking,
Mhm.
and that she kept saying, "Oh, it's for her migraines," and even I was like pointing out, laughing, because when you go to that little the shed at Shu's house,
Mhm.
and it's like, "Oh, he's making the capsules for her. That's cool." And I saw it's like, "Oh yeah, we use peonies to." I'm like, I'm pretty sure there is a 3 to 4, 5 horror games that say you shouldn't use this because it's hallucinogenic.
Yup. Mhm.
Which,
Absolutely. Because
and then
he says
as
he
we already
gets it
saw at
from
the
like,
end,
yeah. He says he gets it from like Chinese medicine or something, right? Like in his journal or one
yeah,
of the notes you find. Um so
yeah.
one final
Even
note.
Catalano looked it up too about that.
So one final note about her transformation, because we talked about the arm and we talked about the the fox mask that she gets, but I forgot about the fact that she basically gets branded in a way, because she gets the hot iron like flower
Oh
thing.
yes, she was.
That part for me was interesting.
In what way was it interesting, specifically for you?
But it just seems so different. Same but different. So like with her arm, she's giving up a piece of herself. With her identity, she's giving up a piece of herself. But for this one, she's gaining something in a way, even though it's literally just what I would assume is Fox Mask branding her with his symbol, because it's the same symbol that's on his robes, right? Like
Yeah.
she's becoming a part of the clan or whatever, like the Fox clan. And it's just a it's the more tamer of the rituals that she goes through.
Unfortunately, yeah, that is true. It is the more easy to recover in comparison. I will definitely like add on and say that is probably giving up her. I don't know how to explain. Saying like she's given up her right as like a human to Foxmask because like he branded her. So now he has ownership of her. That's
So
how
like
I perceive
her
that.
autonomy.
Yeah.
Okay. I could see that. It was just I feel like if you had to do these in like a certain order, I feel like the branding should have happened first, but I guess they needed to start with um the more I feel like getting the arm doing the arm cutscene when they did it was masterful, but also like they have to get the shock and awe value of what is actually happening to this person.
And then also video games gonna have to video game because how are you gonna be so cool and like fight all these all these animals with it?
So, but it's just interesting. And then like there's the scene where the maidens like bring the mirror for her to look at
Mm-hmm.
before the fox mask. And at first I didn't understand what was happening, because I was like, oh, she's getting a fox mask, just like fox mask. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
how bad could that be? And then I was like, why is there a knife involved? What is happening? What is going on? So it's just very interesting.
It's like definitely gave up her autonomy, gave up her like basically her own freedom to Fox Mask. So it's like, goddamn Kagome chasing Inuyasha in the afterworld. Like,
Fair point, fair point. So, but there's also another cutscene. We actually saw it in when they debuted. Like, okay, we're making this game, and it was the scene where I don't know if it's Hinako or if it's just someone in general who's covered in like all the flowers, and the camera zooms in, and then like their face falls off.
yeah.
So you actually get that cutscene with Hinako on your second playthrough. Um, and I was always wondering, I was like, well, where's this cutscene? They teased it. Did they just not add it in? And then I did the second playthrough, and it happened, and I was like, that cutscene is actually kind of frightening because it's also very early. It's shown to us kind of early in the game with the scarecrows, because there's that scene where when you get out of that puzzle, there's that small little shimmer of it shows that enemy without a face.
Mm.
And if you go and you look at Bride Hinako, it also doesn't have a face. And I didn't realize they were all kind of tied together until I did the second playthrough and got that cutscene.
That's interesting. And again, that goes back to what we said earlier. You can't just one does not simply play a Silent Hill game. You have to play it at least 3 to 4 times.
If you want, like, endings and achievements and stuff, then yes. But if you just want the full story, I feel like for this game, playing it um, twice is more than sufficient to understand what is happening with Hinako and her journey of fighting for herself, but also fighting against, like, trying to, like, not lose her friends, lose her family, lose her home, and be this person that she doesn't know who this person is. She doesn't know
Right.
how to survive as future Hinako, who's being forced into a decision that she didn't want to make. Basically, she didn't make it
Well,
herself, but
it's like she needs to bring great honor to the family because just like her sister, and that's another thing I would argue is like very apparent. It's like compare. I don't know. Growing up in an Asian family, we're always compared to like all your cousins, and that's even the YouTuber Stephen He makes jokes about that,
Mhm.
where it's like, oh, why don't he's like, yeah, son, why don't you play the piano? Timmy figured it out at age 10. Like that's the joke,
Mhm.
but even those jokes come from somewhere real, where
Right.
it can be used here in Silent Hill, where Hanako keeps getting compared to Junko, her sister, and then saying like, "Why don't you be prosperous like your sister? Why can't you be like her?" And it's like,
Mhm.
because that's just how things are. Stop it.
Yeah. Have you also noticed that after she gets the fox mask, she becomes more kind of docile in nature? Like, there's the part where Fox Mask says to her, "That's my Hinako," after she gets the fox, and she says, "Yes, thank you very much." But the way that line is delivered is so, like, docile for Hinako's rebellion during the whole game.
hmm Like she came to terms with the decision,
Mhm.
definitely. And then also, it's very apparent too when she was walking through the town and it's been overrun by all the spider lilies and everything.
Mhm. Yep.
So it's like, oh, it's a nice, beautiful day. I'm gonna go see mom and dad. It's like, why does the scary town look so peaceful now? It's like, oh, her world is in shambles,
Mhm.
but at least it's a beautiful day. And it's like,
Yeah.
ooh,
At least I can go see mom and dad. But all in all, this game is it's been a very beautiful game to, like, play and just be in awe of, like, the gameplay, the graphics, the musical composition. I'm so glad that they brought Akira back to do the musical composition for this game, um, and for Silent Hill 2 remake. He did all the musical compositions for the early Silent Hill games, and I was so worried when they announced that they were going to do Silent Hill 2 remake. I was like, how are they going to do the music? Because Akira did it, and then to see that their name is also on this title for a lot of the music, obviously
Mm-hmm.
in works with other composers as well, is amazing.
Absolutely. The sound quality, the music, like again, Silent Hill has been doing like mastercraft storytelling. Like,
Hmm.
well, we can we could probably spend an entire another deep dive on Silent Hill as a franchise
Yeah.
because as much as I understand from the outside looking into the fog, if you will, is that the short message was probably the worst one they ever did, but I don't even think Konami touched that one specifically.
I think that one may have been a spin-off, but I'm not too sure. I think I watched that one played, maybe.
Yeah, it just didn't feel like Silent Hill. But then it's like, well, Silent Hill 4, The Room, and it's like, yeah, everyone was upset about that one too, but that they were cut on money on that one, so you gotta let them have a bone on that one for developing that one
Yeah, I think that one touched a bit more on self-harm and things like that.
in isolation.
Yeah. I've heard mixed reviews on it. If it was good, it wasn't good. I think I saw it played for a little bit, but I haven't seen it in great depth. Um, but the Silent Hill franchise being revived in the year of our Lord 2025 is absolutely amazing. I am worried about the
Absolutely.
new movie that's coming out because it just looks so bad, but I will watch it because I will enjoy all the Silent Hill content I can.
It's like me and you both, me and you both, because that's the thing about even if we want to kind of switch gears and even talk comparison to like video games to movies,
Mhm.
like the only franchise that comes to mind that did a good job of taking a franchise and making a movie with it is the Resident Evil franchise.
Debatable.
Because it, I know, but like, it's like, but I know I just warmed up the grill. Let me cook a little bit. Like, I'm not the water's not even boiling yet, but it's just like yes I will agree like it's not the strongest arguments because it's like yeah they added the characters from the games to the movie like Jill Valentine in the first one that's stupid that's silly it's like but hear me out they they're still following the same history like oh Raccoon City blew up oh there's some bullshit oh Umbrella is doing some things in these other locations but this girl named Alice is doing things and you're like cool. This is not exactly tied to any of the games, but this is great. This is fun. In comparison to like how we mentioned Silent Hill 2 had a movie, essentially. And even we're all sitting here putting our arms up going, that's not how Silent Hill works.
Mhm.
Especially Revelations.
Yeah,
Especially Revelations.
that was interesting. But hey, I mean, experimental movies sometimes work, sometimes they
I,
don't.
even as a Silent Hill casual like myself, I stood up in my living room going, "That's not how Pyramid Head works."
Yeah, that was really interesting how they kind of rewrote the lore for Pyramid Head in that movie to be like he's a protector, and I'm like, did you even play the game? No, I know you didn't play the game because the first Silent Hill movie came out and he was in that, so whatever, whatever, it's fine.
Hollywood's gonna Hollywood so bad.
Absolutely. Since we're on comparing this game title to other media like it or spin-offs like it, let's talk a little bit about other thematic comparisons. So, like, how would you say this game compares to movies or other games such as like the Fatal Frame series or the movie Midsommar or any other related titles?
Ooh. So, unfortunately, I only dabbled a little bit with Fatal Frame, so I don't
Hmm.
know the full context lore besides like what the deal is with Fatal Frame, but
Hmm.
I'm willing to compare with like Midsummer
Fair enough.
because as much as I understood with Midsummer, besides the story development made me angry and I was like looking at my girlfriend at the time, I'm like this whole journey wouldn't happen if she just stayed home.
would
But
have
it's
just
like
stayed home.
if she just stayed home, talked to a therapist, she would have been okay. But no, she decides to guilt trip her boyfriend who was trying to break up with her. Okay, sure. But we can definitely like say there are some similarities to them, especially since she was like the character in Midsummer. I already forgot her name, but she was finding like community within the community. Like she was like making connections with the people there and becoming like the Midsummer Queen. Oh, spoiler alert to anyone who's never seen Midsummer, a movie that came out in 2019, mind you,
Spoiler alert.
because the especially since the internet wouldn't shut up about that movie for a hot minute.
Yeah, my sister was all over that movie, and I didn't watch it until like many months later, but yeah.
Yeah, it's the same. Like I saw it the first time like I think 2 years ago. So we can definitely say there are some reasonable connections or similarities because like again the main character in Midsummer was making connections through the community and everything, so she was feeling more welcomed there than her real life. When Hanako here, right,
Mhm.
was kind of feeling more herself in the other world in comparison to like being the real world with her friends and things.
Okay. I think it's a fair
I,
interpretation, to be honest. I like the fact that this game gave a lot of. I feel like it paid homage to specifically the Fatal Frame series, but it had small elements of like other games to it because it had so much of what you like to see in a not just a horror game but in like the horror genre. Like it all worked and meshed really well together, but the elements of like the shrines and the Japanese lore, specifically the spider lilies, which we touched on earlier, it kind of kicks back a lot to the Fatal Frame series, like very heavily. And then to see the announcement, oh, we're gonna remake Fatal Frame 2, and I'm like, yay! I have it sitting in my
yeah,
cart
exactly.
in Steam right now, ready to purchase because I want the extra digitals, and it looks so good. And I'm so happy that we are kind of in this day and age where I feel like what kicked this off is everybody looked at what Capcom was doing, right? So Capcom did RE2 remake, and then they did
hmm
RE3 remake, which was by a lot of people's standards a letdown, but I like the game. It's my favorite Resident Evil game. um, the original and then a remake. Then they were like, you know what, we're gonna remake Resident Evil 4, and I'm like, okay, cool, that's a good one to remake, yeah. And then by that point, there's so much hype around it. Konami's like, you know what, we should really do something with the Silent Hill series. We haven't done anything with it in such a long time. And then they kick off. I remember it was the day before the Capcom showcase. Konami held a surprise showcase of here's what we have planned for Silent Hill, and they showed like they teased Silent Hill: The Shore Message and the other
Right.
one, and then they teased, hey, we're remaking Silent Hill 2, and it's gonna be made like in connection with Bloober Team, and it was like a whole thing of, oh my god, this is amazing, this is great. And then people would go to Reddit and other posts and be like, "Oh, it's gonna be made by Bloober Team. It's gonna be shit." Da 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 da. And then the game was released, and it's a beautiful game. It is an amazing game, and
Exactly.
it's just nice to see that. Yeah, the companies are doing it mostly to make money. Cool, great, but people remember these titles. Like I've played all these titles as a kid: Fatal Frame, Silent Hill, Resident Evil, all of them. So to see them being like revived and like newer generations get to like have
Experience
contact with
it
them
and
is
see it. Yeah.
amazing. That was very long-winded.
It'll
I
be
apologize.
no, you're good. You're good because that it'll definitely it's like putting that argument to rest of like, oh, back in my day, this is what a real horror game was, and you see Resident Evil 2 on the PlayStation, you're like, Uncle, this is terrible graphics. What is that? It's a dog. No, it's not. That's not a dog, Uncle. And then now you sit there and go, wow, Uncle, is that what Leon was? most badass man you'll ever meet. You want to have his kids. Like, that's where be able, as a culture, be able to share and go like, Leon's such a badass. So
Hmm.
Umbrella's really bad, and all these other fun things. It's,
Absolutely. I like that companies are looking at what they've already made, and it's not necessarily reinventing the wheel, it's just making it better. So obviously, if you look at the old Silent Hill 2, hey Pink, how are you? And it
Hi,
comes
Pink.
in, you're like, okay, it was on the PS2. The graphics at the time for that console and that game were amazing. You know, they're great. It was a spooky game. It was scary. And then
It did what it's supposed to do.
you look at the remake. The remake is even scarier because, well, yeah, one newer technology, but they kept the core of what that game is and was. Um, so I think it's good to see. I'm super excited for the Fatal Frame 2 remake because it seems like there's a, I don't know what it is. There's like a trope with twos are just like the best in the series. So Resident Evil 2, Silent Hill
It
2, Fatal
really
Frame 2,
was.
and I'm just like, what is it? Like, did you guys all just like mind meld and you were just like two is that's the lucky number for video games. So it's
Dead or
good
Alive
stuff.
too.
It's good stuff. So I'm excited.
Had to stop, say hi to both you. Well, thanks, Pink.
Yeah, thanks for coming by. Um,
But and also, I would like to pinpoint like Konami owes the gaming community an apology because them remaking Silent Hill 2 was definitely required of them. Because let's be real here, you know when Capcom was coming out with like, hey, we're just gonna reboot freaking Resident Evil 2. It's gonna be prettier. We're gonna add an extra thing or two in there. You're like, oh, that sounds great. You know, someone in Konami was like slapping the back of the head, like, why can't you be like your cousin? Why can't you make a remake?
why can't you feel like your cousin?
And it's like, well, we
Maybe.
did. We made Shattered Memories. It's like, no, you didn't. That was trash. Stop it. Make a better one. You're like, well, I mean, we did do the we did PT. It's like, yeah, everyone on the internet was excited to see Norman Reedus fight Pyramid Head, and now you said you were canceled it. Do it again, but better.
That is true. Yeah, they sat on that title series for so long. I mean, because they they do Yu-Gi-Oh, they do Metal Gear Solid, um, and they have a few other titles under their belt. They've also just kind of stayed focused on their pachinko machine, so that's carried them for a very long time. And I know that those
Oh,
are very
absolutely.
popular in Japan, so they became more of a gaming company in terms of gambling, but not a gaming company in terms of video games. And I think it's kind of good to see that they're like, you know what? People actually do want remakes of things. And we can see that with the case study or case in point, Capcom and the Resident Evil series. And it's still going strong because Capcom is remaking Resident Evil 1 again, which is fine with me. Remake all the Resident Evils you want. I'm going to buy them and play them. I don't care.
It's
Um
absolutely.
and it's just good to see that finally Konami is like, hey, okay, the community has asked for this for years and years and years. Here's Silent Hill 2. It did absolutely amazing. It did absolutely wonderful. They announced that they're remaking the original Silent Hill, which I am stoked about. And then we have other companies coming out and saying, well, we're going to remake, again, Fatal Frame 2. I don't even know if that's still under Tecmo or if that's under someone else now, but it's good to see that that title is, it'll be out in March. Like they literally just announced it like 2 months ago, I think. And now it's like, yeah, it'll be out in March, and I'm like, I am so excited. I can't wait. And they got the same lady who voiced the main antagonist in that game to come back and revoice her role, which is super cool.
That is amazing. You gotta love when they're able to accomplish those things.
I went on a very long tangent there. I do apologize.
No, it's like
TLDR,
no, because
Konami,
it's
I'm
not
proud of you.
because like when you're mentioning like Konami is actually doing something right. It's like yes, because it's like they need to regroup some money because they kind of like let Hideo Kojima go, and where the entire fan base goes, why would you do that? They're like, oh, because we have cultural differences. It's like, no, 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 no.
Mhm.
Konami, why did you get rid of Hideo Kojima? Because behind the scenes, he was a rock star with the money. Because like
Mhm.
Konami could sit there and say, "All right, Kojima, here's let's say $500,000 to make a Metal Gear Solid game." You're like, "Okay, cool." And then he goes, "Okay, well, I'm gonna need more money." You're like, "We gave you 500,000." He goes like, "Yeah, I blew that all in the first like hour of gameplay."
Yeah.
It's just like so. Konami was very like frustrated with working with him, but he always made money back. That was the issue.
Mhm.
So he could be asking like, oh, 3 times for an entire game development that he needs money, and it's like, we put over 2 million yen into this. What are you doing? And it's just like, I make. It's like I create stories, dude. Like I need the money to develop this. Comes back with like 50 million in sales. So it's just like, Konami, are you really gonna get upset with the guy who's literally creating an entire world? And then, Konami's like kicking their own ass right now because Kojima made Death Stranding, and that blew the gaming industry out of the water, and then Death
Mhm.
Stranding 2, and it's like, yeah, Konami, if you just listen to the crazed developer.
If you would just listen, if you would just listen. Hey, listen. That listen to it. Um
Yeah.
so we are coming up on to be about 30 minutes away from an hour, or being streaming this panel for 3 hours, which has been great. I think we've talked about a lot of great things. So, um, I think I just have like maybe like one more point to make, and that's just like Easter eggs in the game, and then we can kind of close out with like our favorite things in the game and what we might like to see going forward. Does that sound good?
Absolutely. We can go Easter egg hunting on this one.
Awesome. Um, have you found any Easter eggs in the game?
Um, Not me personally, besides
Okay.
the one you pointed out.
Oh, the costume.
The costume, and because I, for some reason, was not gonna ever come to that conclusion, honestly. I just sat there and
Especially,
looked at
especially
her
if you've never
costume.
played, yeah, especially if you've never played Silent Hill 3 or Silent Hill 4, you would never know that that's Robbie the Rabbit, which is a character in those games.
Yeah, that was like the kind of like the park mascot from Silent Hill
Mm-hmm.
3. Is that what
Mm-hmm.
it is? Because I just
Yes.
sat there and assumed it was like, oh, it's just Japan being Japan, kawaii bunny girl, cute. Like that's
Kawaii
how,
bunny.
that's that's how I looked at it. I was like, yep, Japan's just gonna Japan. That's fine. And then you're like,
Nice.
that's a reference. I'm like,
Whoops.
oh, I definitely don't have my associate's degree in Silent Hill. I do not have
You're
my
hilarious.
PhD in. I don't have
Okay.
my PhD in the fog.
Fair enough. Let's run through some Easter eggs that you can find in Silent Hill F. I think I've only found or seen the one, which is the costume, because considering that this is a new game set in a new area, I wasn't thinking that there'd be that many Easter eggs to the other games or to the Silent Hill world in general, but there's a list, so I'm going to read from the list. So,
Okay.
starting off strong, we have the Silent Hill 2 save square, which you can find in Chapter 3. Uh, did not know that, so super cool. Obviously, we have the Robbie the Rabbit costume, which is her pink bunny costume that you can have. I just can't put that costume on and play the game because she looks so cute. And I'm like, you're going through all this stuff. I can't put this costume on you.
Right.
There is a speculation of this being a callback to Silent Hill 4, but when you are in the Shimizu residence, which is Hanako's home, and there's one room you go into, and there's like this huge, enormous, like, doll head, and the eyes follow you wherever you go. People feel that that is a callback to a part in Silent Hill 4 where there's another character who kind of does the same thing.
That
Um,
sounds familiar, and I don't know why.
this one is new. I did not know this one. So Hinako's expression will change depending on if you are near or far away from an enemy. So that's kind of cool. Didn't know
Hmm.
that one. My favorite Easter egg is the way the menu changes from your first playthrough to you loading a game to you finishing a game. I love the progression of how the menu
That
changes.
that needs to be done like everywhere.
It is beautiful. So the only other game I've noted that has this is the game Soma. And if you haven't played that game, highly recommend
There's a bit more lore on it over Discord. It's like, you got more to share, Honeybee? Got more Easter egg lore? Because we're open to it.
Yeah, of course. Share away. Those are the main big ones. The only other one that is of significance is the UFO ending, but you haven't seen that ending yet, so I'm not going to spoil that for you. Nah, Anna
You
lore.
gotta... No, Anna lore. Oh, that lore. Got it.
So with that, that brings us to what we enjoyed about the game, what we didn't enjoy about the game, favorite parts, tips, and tricks. I'll let you lead this one off.
So, me personally, even as I mentioned with Silent Hill 2, the sound design alone was so good. Because I really enjoyed, like, what I was mentioning in Silent Hill 2, they just did a good job of making isolation feel isolation. Because it was like so quiet, like you could hear Hanako's like footsteps and everything, and it's like, how do you just do that? Like, how do you make it sound like, oh, you're not alone, because you can hear the wind, you can hear the trees, and it's like, but no, you are so alone still. Like, what is happening? And I liked all the, what are some other things? There's so much to like about this game. Like, I like the
There is.
imagery presented, especially since most of my chat saw me play Ghostwire Tokyo, so it was easy to translate like the lore or
Mhm.
even like the belief system of everything.
Okay.
And
How
I
would you
was
say?
gonna say,
Go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say is like my only gripe with the game was like the combat system. That was mostly it.
I've heard that a lot. I actually really like the combat system. A lot of people have mentioned, oh, it's clunky and things don't happen when you are putting input in. And I think that that can kind of go both ways, especially if you're looking at who Hinako is in terms
Mm-hmm.
of how old she is and how is she dealing with this. And when you put all those factors into account, I think it works kind of well because if we're looking at someone who is a teenage girl who is going through and fighting off these monsters, it kind of makes sense for her not to be this, kung fu master who can sidestep and swipe and do everything all at once. But I do
Right.
understand your frustration with it. Like, I can see both sides of it.
Because I think the entire game I was spending all my little tokens and whatever
Mhm.
on stamina alone.
Mhm. Speaking of, have you found all of the Emma in the game?
Eh, Uh, that I'm not entirely sure. I think I found a good number of them. I don't think I found all of them.
There are 22 total. I think I have found maybe 17 of them. Because some of them can only be found once you do New Game Plus, which is interesting. Um, do you have a favorite weapon that you like to use in the game?
The Naginata, personally,
That's fair.
when because like not only that it's like long range and swiping,
Mhm.
which you were getting swarms anyway, so it's like why would you not use it?
Yeah, that's fair. I do like that weapon. I think my favorite weapon, because you get to use it in both realms, especially later in the game, is the fox arm. Like it's
Oh
OP.
yeah,
It's OP. It's just like why not, you know?
pretty much. It's like that was a one-stop shop, turned into a beast. Freaking release the Rasengan, whatever, and just
At least there is Zingana.
and just like unleashed like hatred on like that what do we call it? That creature that was like populating all the little like dolls and things.
Oh yeah, the Dark Hatcher, I think is what it's called.
Yeah, the things like that. Just fox arm, rip it
Mhm.
apart, go home,
Yeah.
call it a day.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So,
the other the other thing that I I guess I was too dumb to understand was like,
You're not dumb.
oh,
Stop it.
oh no, I was pretty dumb in this game. Was like, I didn't understand completely what the what was it, the psyche bar was?
Oh, the sanity bar?
Yeah, the Sanita bar, because it's like, oh, if you use it, you can do certain things against enemies when they shimmer and things. I'm like, um, I've used it like 3 times. I don't see the shimmer. I think I was able to pull it off like maybe twice
Yeah.
during the entire gameplay.
So, they have come out with a patch to kind of help with that, be a little easier to one see and two perform. And then you can also put on Memory on that makes it even easier, um, which is also really cool to see and do. I was confused on it at first too because I was like, okay, you have a sanity meter, because why? And I think that's another reason that this game kind of reminded me about Fatal Frame 2 a little bit, even though Fatal Frame 2 doesn't really have a sanity meter. It has a different kind of meter, but it reminded me of it. So I got confused on that too. And then performing the counters was a bit tough at first.
Yeah, I think I was able to accomplish counters like maybe 10 times throughout the entire game. Otherwise, I was just dodging everything.
Yeah, the dodge
My
does work, and then like the stamina bar is I think a nice touch. I really like the layout overall of like the HUD and how things look for Hinako and where you can find things. So it's a nice addition to the game for sure.
It's like, don't get me wrong, it's definitely, that's what I always tell people when you play any game. Like, for instance, people go like, oh, you need to play Saints Row the third, it's the best one. I'm like, well, I want to play the first one. They're like, oh, it doesn't matter, you need to play the third one. And it's like, I wanted to know, personally, it's like, I want to see what these characters are, where they came from, but then also, as a company, did they do anything different over the years?
Hmm.
So it's like we could sit here with Silent Hill F, and we're like, oh, it's a new story. You're like, cool. You're a teenage girl in Japan. Cool. And you're like, also, here's a sanity bar. And it's like, what's a sanity bar? What does the sanity bar do? So it's something new that we're not used to. But then also, it's a lot different from like Silent Hill 2 with James, where it's like, swing. You're just Mickey Mantle. You're swinging your baseball bat at everything. You'll
James
be
didn't
fine.
need a sanity bar. He had no sanity.
He's already lost to the fog.
He was cray cray. But so what was your favorite part of the game overall? Did you have your favorite chapter or cutscene or anything at all?
Ooh. Um, Cutscene was definitely anything with the fox mask, honestly, because it was like not really abrupt, but it was very abrupt in the way of pacing, saying like, "Hey, she is losing her mind about everything," but then it's like, "Oh, fox mask, everything's calm." You're like, "Oh, this is nice." I like. I also liked the imagery of like what the other world looks like,
Mhm.
because it's like, oh, blue fires, the torii gates, the seals, and all the kitsune stuff,
Mhm.
which I don't know, it was just like appealing for me personally.
Yeah. I I
And as you
understand that.
see what's and as you see my chat, ooh, it's the daddy fox.
I mean, they're not wrong. I'm just saying. Like I'm telling you, Konami did. They probably wrote a case study on what color hair should this man have.
Oh yeah,
And to
it's like,
boot,
but
they
Japanese always
painted
have
his
black hair. Like, nope.
and to boot, they painted his nails black. So Konami knew what they were doing, or whoever did his character design was like, you got to do this version, or the game's not selling.
Also, what a time to bring a character like him to life, especially when there's a whole genre of readers out there that go like, that are specifically into monster fucking. So let's be real here. They capitalized.
You're not wrong at all. So, absolutely not wrong. Very, they did an amazing job on this game, for sure.
Absolutely.
So, I'm super
What
excited to
about you?
see what they do in the future. Oh, my favorite cutscene?
Cutscenes, like little fights,
Um,
whatever.
Let me think. I like
Is yeah, looking at the gameplay again, I'm like, oh god, there's a lot, isn't there?
so I think one really small thing that I really like about the game is when you do New Game Plus, this cutscene where he gives you his brooch. I like how that
Yeah.
stays with you on New Game Plus
Mm-hmm.
because there's a mechanic for it, which is really really cool. And I noticed it right away because in the scene where you are like giving Junko the bell and it does the close up of Hinako, you see it on her shirt. And I'm like,
Yes.
oh, like that is so cool. That's such a cool little touch. Like it was really nice to see that. And then favorite cutscene is probably the one that we talked about earlier, where you're walking down the Great Hall and you see Junko in the line of the Fox Clan, and you're just kind of like,
um,
why is she there? But I mean, she does have a line of dialogue there, and you hear the little bell go off. But I thought that that was a cool little touch of, no matter what, like, I'm here for you, but this is your duty. You have to do it. And then the other cutscene that I like, and I don't know if you remember it, but there's a cutscene later on, shortly after that, where it's Fox Mask, Hinako, and Junko are in the same cutscene, and Junko basically tells Fox Mask, like, F off, I need to talk to my sister for a minute, you know?
mm-hmm.
And her and Hinako have a little chat, and then Fox Mask just kind of comes back and is like, everything good? And then Junko says something, like she kind of dismisses him and like walks out off the scene. And then Fox Mask asks Hinako, "Did you guys have a good chat?" And I'm like, "Dude, you were literally like not even that far away. You probably heard the whole conversation. What are you talking about?"
That was like, not gonna lie, that interaction kind of made me sit there and go, wow, this is like a little 50 Shades of Grey here. I don't like it.
Yeah, it was very interesting. I'm like, because I was like, why is Junko in this scene? And does she not like Fox Mask or Kotayuki, depending on what you want to call him? Like, or do they have discourse? Because Junko's very hardcore about Hinako needs to do this, and this is the only way, you can't back out, blah 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 blah. And Hinako's like, but I don't want to, like, what? And then Fox Mask is just there, like the clueless cat, like, hey guys, what's good?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I found a sunbeam over here. Are you good?
Yeah. But those would be my favorite cutscenes. Favorite weapon is the fox arm, like I mentioned. But if I had to choose like just a normal weapon, the sickles you get, those things do some
Really?
damage. They do damage. Like I looked up like a tier list of like what weapons do the most damage besides like not including like what happens in the other world. And the sickle, the knife, and the axe were like the top three of the list. And I was just like, really? The sickle does that much damage? But it's a very agile weapon, so save those on your second
Yeah,
playthrough when you find them.
interesting because I've been. You know what's the worst thing? I play any like sequel games and try to think of the logic from the predecessor games. So when I found the axe itself, I'm like, oh, that guy from Shattered Memories used this. It was the best weapon. He's like, you don't need the brick, you don't need the pipe. The axe is where it's at. So I remember carrying
Oh,
that and trying to
you're not thinking of
stretch
Shattered
that.
Memories. You're thinking of Homecoming.
Homecoming, thank
Shattered
you. I
Memories
was like,
had no combat. You just ran the whole game.
I was gonna say Shattered Memories was. Oh, was I thinking of Downpour or which one? Oh God.
Downpour and
See,
Homecoming have multiple weapons that you can use.
see, I don't even have a high school diploma in the fog.
I don't either. It's okay.
It's like
I've
I
just been
beg to
alive. I've
differ.
just been alive 6 years longer than you have, so I was able to enjoy the game when I was 10.
I was gonna say, like, excuse you, you have a whole ass like PhD over here of the fog. It's not Cheryl, it's Heather Mason. It's like, oh, okay.
So, what's funny about the comment you just made, Cheryl and Heather, is my favorite quote from Silent Hill 3 is where Heather decides to go back to using her old name, Cheryl, and she's talking to like the detective, and he asks her, he's like, "Well, are you gonna dye your hair back? Because her natural hair color is brown." And she's like, "I don't know. Don't you think blondes have more fun?" And she does like this like cute little like hair toss, and it's just like a cute little cutscene
Right.
at the end of that game.
But overall, if this is not in a competition for like at least Game of the Year, or at least like gonna be in someone's like playbook of being top 10 horror
Mhm.
of the year, like we have failed as a society because
Yeah, it's
it's not
definitely
it's not too flashy.
deserving.
It's not flashy. It's just like horror, but also, did you guys pay attention, kind of thing.
Mhm. It has won Editor's Choice award from Computer Games Magazine and Digital Trends, so it has won some awards already. The game has sold over 1 million units worldwide shortly after its launch, which is good. It took this game, I think, a week to surpass the Silent Hill 2 records, um, which is still pretty good, I would say. It did great.
Right.
Hello,
Oh,
Strawberry Hero Forever. How are you?
oh,
English.
here's a real
Finally.
question.
Yes.
Did you play this game in English or in Japanese first?
I've done it in both. I played it in English first because I like to hear the tonality of the voices with the mocap.
Okay.
And then I played my second playthrough with the Japanese. Thank you for the follow, Strawberry. I really appreciate it. Then I played it with the Japanese to see if there was any difference in tonality. And both of them are 10 out of 10. They did amazing.
I did notice that because my second playthrough is in English, and then I played the entire thing in Japanese because I'm like, I it comes in Japan, it stays in Japan, and also knowing the language a little bit, there's
Hmm.
very variations on how you say certain things.
Yeah.
So like for instance, saying thank you in English just straight up means has like one meaning, right?
Right, right, right.
In Jap in like Japan, there's like four different to 10 different ways to say thank you, and it's like,
Hmm.
oh god. So being able to like hear that a little bit in the voice acting, it was like, oh,
Hmm.
he did not like that at all. Like it was a little tidbits here and there I caught
Yeah.
about it.
I think that's fair. I've done both just because, I think it's good to do. But also, I think I saw it was either a TikTok or a repost on Instagram of the lady who voiced and did the mocap for Hinako. She was
Yeah.
playing the game, and there's a clip of her when you get to the scene where Rinko is about to push her down the stairs, and the face the voice actress makes is so hilarious. And I've been seeing that being reposted all over like Reddit.
Oh god.
Because she makes the most obnoxious of faces, like, "Oh, we don't like her. She's about to push me down the stairs."
Yeah. You and the rest of the internet also don't like her.
Yeah, exactly. Um, but the game is up for nomination at the Golden Joystick Awards for Best Storytelling and Best Soundtrack. So we shall see if it gets anything. I'm really excited to see who wins Game of the Year. Because this is definitely a strong contender with a few other games.
Oh, definitely.
So,
Absolutely. But then again, it's like, these game awards, is it the same thing like you know, movie awards too, where it's like whoever has the most money wins it?
Uh, Not necessarily because the vote does come from like you can go right now and vote for the Golden Joystick Awards for games that you want to win. I think the voting for that is open until either the end of November or the first week of December. Um, so you can go and vote for 3 games in any category that they have. Um, if this game doesn't walk away with more awards, then somebody just doesn't know what they're talking about. Say
Definitely.
that.
It's like we will like to. It's like we would like to say a lot of words before this becomes political.
Oh, I think we have a bot in chat. Or this person is just talking nonsense. I don't know. I am actually jealous though because this game had a physical like um I'll talk to Otaku, sorry. Um uh what are words,
Oh
Taku?
yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
We're hold on. That caught me off guard too. Hold on.
This game had a physical box that you could get special edition, that's the word. Damn. My brain just
Yeah.
full shutdown just then. Deluxe box, and I've been so jealous of seeing people open those on um, streams and stuff. Like, it would be like the actual puzzle box that you can open in the game.
Oh, I've seen those too. I'm like,
I'm just like, I
man,
want one of those.
this is why the U.S. can't have nice things. Like, look at that.
Well, hello, kitty cat, in my background. Um, but yeah, I'm excited to see what awards this game wins, all that kind of good stuff. Silent Hill 2 is up for nomination for the Game Awards as well, but I think it already won some things. I'm not too sure on that. It's going to be a good year.
Oh, absolutely. Like, without a doubt.
So, but I think we've covered a lot today. Is there anything you'd like to add before we sign off from our Silent Hill panel? I think it went pretty well.
I think so too. This was actually really fun. Actual deep dive and our like feelings or even an analysis of the story and the characters. I think we did pretty much everything here.
Yeah, I think we had a very good comprehensive conversation about what we think about the game and where the future of this series is going.
It's like absolutely. So, again, I had fun. This was
I did. I had
fun.
a ton of fun.
So, for all you homies out there, our lovely viewers, if you want us to break down, play a game, break it down, do a deep dive, even try to analyze the story itself, let us know in our discords. I have a viewer wish list. And do you have anything of that nature to voice if we should be doing this with another series?
I don't at this time. I don't know of another series that you and I have played besides Dead by Daylight, which I do want to do a Dead by Daylight panel. And since we have more people for that, we could definitely like plan that out and maybe get that ball rolling or something.
He's like, should we rank all the killers based off of like who, like I mentioned before, it's like who was morally right in their death or who is actually just evil.
This is true.
You're all,
You could, I mean, you could technically argue that like Wraith, you know, is kind of sort of in the gray area.
Wraith is Satan. Put him in the bin. Put him in the box. Evil, nothing more. Your Honor, the Houndmaster was in self-defense. She fed her victim his son. It's like again justified.
But we do appreciate everyone coming and hanging out and joining us for these last 3 hours. We've done a deep dive on Silent Hill F. We've both played the game. We're both on our second playthroughs. We've thoroughly enjoyed it. We've had a good time with it. And you know, we're excited to do more stuff like this. You can join our discords and hang out with us if you like. I think we're gonna sign off for now, and we'll be back with our regular streams per usual. We stream every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, Dead by Daylight with our crew. I also stream every Friday night, community game night with my friends, so come hang out. And then every second Saturday of the month, we do a movie night in my Discord, so you're welcome to come hang out as well. Tonight we're watching The
Very
Meg.
nice. The Meg. Oh my gosh. And yep, same thing. I join Anne with the rest of our crew on Tuesdays for Dead by Daylight. Wednesdays and Thursdays I do story games. Right now we're doing Space Marine 2 from Warhammer 40k. And Friday and Mondays are all multiplayer days. So, hope to see you all. If you're liked what we did, please hit us with a follow so you don't miss any content that we might provide. We'll definitely link up with Anne, and possibly we could get maybe Pink on a panel with us to do more Dead by Daylight lore, since she is the lore queen of that.
Yeah, it would be fun.
So until then, guess we will see you all in our next streams.
Yeah. Gonna put my ending stream screen up. And we will see you guys later.
Bye.